Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Ross, MGEU president. I'm excited to spend time this evening learning tips on how to budget our finances and ensure we can have the best credit possible. November is Financial Literacy Month in Canada. Financial literacy includes the knowledge, skills, and confidence people need to make informed choices about money. If you find it intimidating to talk about your personal finances, you're not alone. Millions of Canadians admit that they could improve their financial knowledge, including myself. I'm no expert, but I'm hoping to learn a lot today. More than 3/4 of Canadians say their personal finances have worsened due to inflation, and 6 in 10 Canadians say either saving less or not at all. Throughout the month of November, the MGU encourages members to take charge of their finances by making a budget, having savings and debt reduction plan, and learn more about their financial rights and responsibilities. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the MGU operates throughout Manitoba and is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Inishawak, Innuwak, Mehetawuk, Dakota, Dene, and Métis people. Our primary office is located on Treaty 1 territory in the homeland of the Métis Nation. Our work extends throughout Treaties 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. We acknowledge that Winnipeg's water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. We respect the treaties made on these territories. We dedicate ourselves to move forward with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration to make Manitoba an inclusive and accessible place for everyone who lives here. Before we get started, we have a couple digital housekeeping items before we get started. On most devices, we have frozen your screen to view to ensure that you get the most of this presentation. And once I spit it out, you'll hear it. Some devices will not let us do this for you. You can change the view on your screen if you haven't already. You'll probably want to switch it to presentation mode, so the speaker will be the largest picture on your screen. On some devices, you'll also have the option to hide presenters with their cameras off to ensure the speaker is the largest picture. Your camera and mics have all been defaulted to off, and you will not be able to turn them on. If you have any questions, type them in the chat feature. For most of you, this feature will be found at the bottom right of your screen. If you are not able to see the chat or find it easier, you can also email your questions to the MGU Resource Center at resourcecenter@mgu.ca, or you can call them at 204-982-6438, or on the toll-free number 1-866-982-6438. This information can also be found on the MGU in case you were not able to write those down. Along with our panelists, you may see grayed out boxes for Jill Stockwell, Lori Bleeks, Samantha Probitz. They are helping us with the behind the scenes of the webinar with things like technical difficulties, monitoring the chat, and making sure the questions get to us to answer. We may not be able to answer all of your questions tonight, but we will do our best. We are recording this presentation tonight so we can watch it again after. Members who are not able to join us will have the opportunity to watch it as well. Now on to the content for the evening. We're joined tonight by Tim St. Vincent from the Credit Counselling Society of Manitoba. For 25 years, the Credit Counselling Society is a nonprofit that helps individuals and families achieve financial well-being through education, objective confidential credit counseling, budget review, and preparation, the correct use of credit cards, and with debt repayment alternatives. The Credit Counselling Society has helped over 1 million Canadians, educated over 125,000, and assisted our clients in repaying over $3 billion of debt. Tim is the Credit Counselling Society's financial educator for Manitoba and Saskatchewan. He has over 25 years experience in financial services and is a retired certified financial planner. Tim has completed the Canadian Securities course, has achieved a certificate in management, and is a certified educator in personal finance. Tim believes strongly in the power of education, planning, and acting on your plan. We'll be started by talking about budgeting, then taking a short break, then learning about credit, and then taking your questions. Thank you so much for coming to spend the next 2.5 hours with us. Now take it away, Tim.
Okay, well, make sure I'm not muted. Good, I'm not. So good evening, everyone. I want to thank all of you who have come here tonight and shared your time with us. I want to thank Kyle for his kind intro and everything he covered off. I want to thank Lori and all the people in the backgrounds, because there's lots of people in the background here helping make all this work, and of course, MGEU. I want to try and keep tonight informative, light, educational, relatively informal. If you have any questions, please ask them throughout as they pop up. I've got a nice screen in front of me here, so I'll see the questions as they come up and I'll respond to them as quickly as I can. If you have any questions that stump me, that's great. I love that because that means it's a chance for me to learn too. So if you come up with something I don't have an answer for, I will take a note of it and I'll do my best to get back to you so you can get the answer you need. Before we go into the topic proper, I'll just give you a little bit of background on Credit Counseling Society, who we are and what we do, and a little bit of background on myself. So Credit Counseling Society is a nonprofit organization. We're based out of BC. We look after BC through to Ontario and up north into the territories. And really, we're about two main things, education and individual one-on-one assistance. So I'm on the education side. And as part of that, we have webinars on about 40 different topics. And really, our target audience is anyone from the unemployed laborer who might be struggling to get by and going to the food bank to get by, to the professional making 2, 3, 4, 500,000 a year or more. Having a good education, good income, it's not necessarily a barrier to having financial challenges. Anyone and everyone can have difficulties. On the education side, we hope if we give you a good foundation in terms of how everything works, hopefully you won't have any problems. We know that's a little ambitious of us, so we have the second half of Credit Counseling Society, where we do things like free individual one-on-one credit counseling, credit review, budget preparation, and things of that nature. For people who have maybe a different level of need, we have something called a debt management program, where we work directly with our clients' lenders, and we work with them to bring their interest rates down towards zero. Then from the money, we help people save through the reduced interest rates. And through the budgeting process, we redirect those funds to help people pay off their debt. It's a very, very successful program. Kyle's given you all my good stats, so I won't repeat them. So it's been a very good program. And for myself, my name's Tim. So, you can all wave and say hi, Tim, if you want. I am a retired CFP, retired financial planner. I taught financial planning for several years. I've completed my Canadian securities. I'm a certified educator in personal finance. And all that really means is hopefully I can answer your questions. But if not, again, great. That's an opportunity for me to learn. I want you to remember my background when we get to the second half of this and we talk about the truth about credit. And it's really going to be relevant because about 90% of the stuff we're going to talk about and the truth about credit, I didn't know. And keep in mind at that point in time, a retired CFP taught the financial planning program in the industry for 25 years. And about 90% of that stuff I didn't know. So with that, I'm going to jump into budgeting. And if you have any questions you want to ask, by all means, feel free, jump right on in and ask those questions because you know what? I'm going to be asking you some questions. This is going to be an audience participation. And I do have some people behind the screen here to help me and they'll take your question, rather your answers to my questions, and I'll be able to see them up there too. All right, so what are we going to talk about specifically today? Well, we're going to talk about money values. We're going to talk about how you think and feel about money. And so we're a little different from other organizations who do budgeting sessions in that we're not going to talk about money a lot here. And not the number and cents part of it anyways. We're going to talk more about your relationship with money and your patterns of behavior around money. Because for the most part, when it comes to budgeting, the math part is the easy part. 1 and 1 is 2. If you're math challenged, there's friends who can help you. You can get a calculator, Excel files. But where the real challenge comes is when 1 and 1 is -3, and you don't understand why it's -3. And that has to do with your relationship and your pattern of behavior on money. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about goal setting and budgeting basics. And within that, we'll talk about how to make a budget. We'll talk about expense tracking, and we'll talk about paycheck planning, which is a way to kind of bring all these concepts that we're going to talk about together. To get started off with, I want to first talk about the top 7 reasons why people have financial difficulties. And this is when people come to see us, we ask them what caused them to have difficulties. So I want to review the top 7 because it's really relevant to what we're talking about, because right in the middle of that pack is number 4, no budget. And even though it's in the middle of the pack, for me, it's the most important one. And that's because half the country has no budget. Half the country is struggling financially. So to me, that can't be a coincidence. Half of us have no budget. Half of us are struggling. And now, if you don't have a budget, you probably don't have an emergency fund. And this is really important because an emergency fund is a core piece of a budget, and we all need to have that in there. Now, the number one emergency that most people tend to run into somewhere in their lives, for most people, is job loss. That happens to be the number one emergency. So let's imagine now you're part of that half the country that's that doesn't have a budget. You run into that number one emergency that hits most people out there, unemployment. And while you probably get a severance package, you might get EI, some other sort of severance package, but it's never enough to fill that financial void. So what do most people do to fill that gap? Well, they reach for credit. So then it's not a big surprise that the second most common reason why people run into financial difficulties is excessive use of credit just for normal daily living expenses. Rounding off that list is, injury or illness where you might get workers' comp, which in many ways is similar to losing your job, except now you get workers' comp instead of getting EI. But the thing I want to point out here is the thing that really is supporting this is no budget. If that half the country didn't have a budget, had a budget, and now they would have an emergency fund, if they ran into these challenges, they would be better positioned and a better position to handle them. Rounding off that top 7 list is number 5, separation, divorce, family expenses. We do a lot of work with family counselors and divorce lawyers. Number 6 is high student loans and financial expenses, education expenses. And number 7 is high housing costs. So this is a good list. It helps us understand where people are having their problems, and we can create programs to address these problems. But as good as this list is, as powerful as this list, as important as this list is, the most important and the most powerful aspect is not what is on the list, but whether what's missing from this list. And what this list doesn't have that is so important and so powerful is something called a socioeconomic boundary. Now, that's just a nice big fancy way of saying this list doesn't care about what part of the city you live in. If you're in the so-called struggling part of the city or the so-called good part of the city, it doesn't care about your economic status. It doesn't care if you're the unemployed day laborer or you're the professional making 2, 3, 400,000. Anyone and everyone can have financial difficulties. Income and education is not a barrier against that. And that's really important to realize because if you're having any challenges, first, you're not alone. Half the country is struggling. It's definitely not just you. It has nothing to do with your income, has nothing to do with your education. There's a ton of factors that goes into that. And we'll be talking about that a little bit as we go throughout tonight. So what's in it for you? What do you get out of being good with your money? And this is again something that we audit people about and ask them about. And the two responses we get that are always tied for first and second, they flip back and forth, is reduced stress and better sleep. That's what they get out of being good with their money, but learning how to handle it. And that makes complete sense. Because if you're stressed, right? If you don't know how you're going to pay the rent, the mortgage, the car payments, the utility bills, put food on the table, that's an incredible amount of stress. And if you're going through all that kind of stress, how in the world are you going to get a decent night's sleep? And this is at some point in time, it's going to have an impact on your physical health. It's going to have an impact on your mental health. So getting control of your money is about a lot more than just getting control of your money. You can have a lot more far-reaching implications than that. And once you can get to that stage, once you can get that control of your money back, well, then you can have some hope, right? You can plan and prepare for the future. And that's really in many ways the key about what budgeting can do for you. It's going to give you that control and it's going to give you hope. And we'll talk about that, especially the control aspect, as we get a little bit further in throughout the session. All right, so remember I warned you about audience participation time. We're going to see how this works because we haven't tried this before. Here's a question for you. What does money mean to you? What do you think of when you think about money? What kind of feelings does it emote? Does it bring up safety, security, fear, spending, freedom, travel? What does money mean to you? Okay. I have no idea how many people we've got on here tonight, but I'm suspecting it's a good number. So I'm hoping I can get at least 2 or 3 brave volunteers to tell me what money means to them. What do you think of? So I got this nice big screen in front of me here. So I'm going to stare at it. Okay, so here I'm getting some good answers. Freedom, travel. Okay, I've got 2 people. Come on, there's a few more. I've got like 2.5 hours. I can wait. 2 only. Okay, there we go. Education. Give me 2 more. 2 more. I know I'm pushing my luck, but I'm hoping there's a few hundred of you out here. Maybe I'm pushing my luck too much. So I've got freedom, travel, education, entertainment. Okay, I can work with 4. So thank you for those of you who gave me some answers. Oh, another one. Safety. Good. I like that. Food. Oh, now they're coming in. What I'm trying to show here is that different people think and feel about money differently. These are what we call liberty, another great one. These are what we call our money values, right? Money values are like having these little voices sitting on your shoulders. And you're thinking about buying something, and this little voice is saying, yes, 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 I want you to buy that. That's important to me. You look at something else, and the voice says, no, 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 that's not important. I'd rather spend my money on something else. Don't buy that. Those are your money values. They direct how you make your purchases. We're getting some more ones coming in. Stability, a good retirement, less stress. So everybody has a core, at least one core money value. And then lots of other smaller ones typically surround it. And quite often, your money value has a lot to do with how you grew up around money. And so I'll use myself as an example. My money value happens to be at the top of the list. And a few other people mentioned it too. Safety and security. That means I want to feel safe and secure, that I have sufficient funds to manage the lifestyle that I want to be able to have. And that absolutely has everything to do with how I grew up around money as a kid. So when I was growing up, dad was a blue collar worker. He worked for the dairies, didn't make a lot of money. There were 8 of us. So we were a good sized family for back then. My mom, well, with 8 of us, she worked very hard. She was a stay at home mom though, so she wasn't bringing in any income. When I was growing up, mortgages weren't the maybe 5% we're starting to see now. They were 19 to 21%. We didn't have one mortgage on the house. We had 2 mortgages on the house. Money was so tight, I could tell what day of the week it was, not by looking at the calendar, but by what we were eating. Breakfast was always porridge, that was a given. Lunch was almost always rice and hamburger, unless we were having waffles. If we had waffles, that had to be Wednesday, because sometimes dad came home for lunch and he liked waffles. So we'd have waffles for lunch on Wednesdays. If we were having ground hamburger, like a ground up hamburger and a hamburger bun, a loose type sandwich thing, well, that was a Saturday because we always had that on Saturday. Sunday, well, if we were having chicken, which was a treat, it had to be a Sunday because we only had treats on Sunday. Desserts, canned pears, canned peaches, fruit cocktail. So I grew up in an environment where money was very, very tight. And because of that, my money value is safety and security. I want to feel safe and secure. I've got enough money. My wife comes from a very different background. For her, core money value is comfort and adventure. So yes, we're the cliche couple, right? I'm the saver, she's the spender. But that doesn't mean I don't like to spend. It doesn't mean she doesn't like to save. What that means is because we have different money values, right? If I'm going to do a budget, I'm going to have a much bigger saving piece in that budget relative to hers. If she's doing the budget, she's going to have a much bigger spending piece in that budget relative to mine. So that's part of how your money values show up in your budget. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But it's also important to know that if you're in a relationship, and we have a whole separate webinar on this one called Couples and Money, we all know what couples fight about, right? Number one thing is money. And the reason because around that is if you're in a relationship, there are not 2 of you, there's 3 of you. Okay, on one end there's you, the other end there's your partner, and right smack dab in the middle is the money. You've got a relationship with money you probably don't understand. Your partner has a relationship with money they probably don't understand, and you don't understand each other's relationship with money, right? So no wonder couples fight about money so much. So if you find you're getting into that situation, and again, I won't go too deep into this because we have a different webinar topic on this one, it's important to understand that they're not really trying to tick you off. They legitimately look at money differently than you do. And if you can understand that, it's a really good way to start breaking down some of those financial barriers because, it is one of our great taboo topics. We don't talk about that. Excuse me. So start off by trying to identify what your core money value is, right? Why you think money is there. What do you get from money? And it's different for different people. Now, remember that we'll get back to this in a few more slides, but your money values will definitely show up in your budget. And we'll get to that in a little bit more as we go further on. Also, a key part of your budget that a lot of people don't really realize or appreciate is your budget's full of goals. And when I talk to people about that, they go, well, what do you mean? My budget isn't full of goals. My budget says, pay the rent, mortgage, car, utilities, food on the table. Well, exactly. That's it. That's the goal of your budget. Your goal of your budget is to have enough money to pay the rent, the mortgage, the car, utilities, and put food on the table. So your budget is full of goals. But sometimes the dollar sign associated with that goal can be big and scary, and you don't know how to address it. You don't know how to get there and to tackle that. So really, what we say is don't worry too much about that big dollar sign. We'll get to that in a second. You have to realize that these goals that are in your budget really cost you two things for the most part. They're going to cost you time and they're going to cost you money. Okay, well, what do I mean by that? Well, let's go back to, we don't want you to worry about that big dollar sign, right? You got this big financial cost associated with your goal, whatever it is. What we want you to do is to be able to identify what your goal is. Okay. And then once you identify your goal, remember goals cost you two things for the most part. They cost you money, how much money is it going to cost you to achieve that goal, and it's going to cost you time. And that means how much time will it take you to accumulate that money so you can afford the goal. And we want you thinking time in terms of paydays. So what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a goal, you've identified it, you've identified the financial costs, and you figure it's going to take you a year to save that amount of money. So that's your time cost, right? 1 year. But we want you to think in terms of paydays. So for example, if you get paid every 2 weeks, which is a pattern many people follow, you'll have 26 paydays in a year. So if you figure it's going to take you a year, okay, your time cost is 26. So you would take that time cost of 26 paydays, and we'll get into some actual numbers a little bit later on, and you divide that into whatever your financial cost for that target is. What that does, it takes that great big scary dollar sign that we say don't worry about, and it breaks it down into little itty bitty bi-weekly pieces, right? Into smaller pieces. Then you have to set up an automatic payment plan so that the small itty bitty pieces goes into a separate bank account. And this is really important because you need to keep that money safe and separate from you. Because sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. We can be great at saving money, but you know what? As good as we are at saving money, we're just a little bit better at spending it. So we have to keep that money separate and apart. And this is another big mistake that people make. They commingle their money together. And what that means basically is you put all your significant money into one or two big piles, like savings and checking. And so let's say you're saving for a vacation or renovations, or you got a little one on the way, or you're saving for education, and you're putting all that money in the same pile as your normal pile of money you pay your monthly bills from, and that you pay all your other stuff from. Well, maybe some shoes go on sale that you want, or a suit, or some jewelry, or some electronics, and you go out and buy it because it's a great buy. But you end up spending your goal money without realizing it because it's in that same pile of money as everything else. So as we go throughout the session, we're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about making sure you separate your money into different accounts. And don't worry, you won't end up with a gazillion accounts. We'll show you how you can condense it anywhere from 3 to 6 accounts, depending upon your individual preference. And don't worry, the banks will not be charging you a whack of fees. We'll be talking about that as well. Really important though that you have that separate account set up for your separate goals. Now, when you're looking at this, it's important to really help yourself kind of visualize and get yourself there. How am I going to express this? So we got a nice basic goal setting statement. And while I think of it too, I should mention the copy of the slide decks that we're going to go through today will be available as well. So everyone can have access to the slide decks. Okay, so let's look at a basic goal setting statement, right? My goal is I want to achieve it by total cost of my goal will be, okay, and this is how I'm going to get there. So you can identify your goal. I want to achieve it by, that's going to be your time cost, total cost. That'll be my financial cost. So let's look at an actual example here. My goal is to go on a vacation. Okay, realistically, it needs to be a little more specific, but I've only got so much room on the slide. So more complete goal statement. My goal is to go on a vacation, visit my cousin Sid in Vancouver, and crash there for a couple of weeks. Okay, so there's my more complete goal statement. I want to achieve it in 1 year. Okay, remember goals cost two things, time and money. I've just identified my time cost. It's going to take me 1 year, or because I get paid every 2 weeks, 26 paydays, because we want you to think of it in terms of paydays, to achieve my goal. Okay, great, making progress. The total financial cost of my goal is $1,000. Okay, so I want to put $1,000 aside. I'll use some air miles to fly out there. I'll crash at my cousin's. I'll spend some money, take them out for dinner a couple of times. That'll be my play money, and I'll use air miles to get back. Okay, I've got that figured out. But wow, $1,000. That's a lot of money. How am I going to accumulate that? How am I going to get there? And this is what I mean by say, don't focus on the big dollar amount because sometimes it can freak you out, right? It can be disruptive. So let's go back to identify my goal. I've got that. Goals cost two things, time and money. I've got my time cost, 1 year, 26 paydays. So I'm going to take that 26 paydays, I'm going to divide that into the $1,000, which is my financial cost, and that's going to tell me forget about the $1,000. Focus on $39. Wow, that's so much easier, right? That takes off so much pressure. That's a number I can conceptualize and I can handle, I can deal with so easily. I focus on 39 bucks. 39 bucks. If I put aside 39 bucks every 2 weeks when I get paid, okay? If I 39 bucks every 2 weeks, I'll save $1,000 in a year and I can afford to go on my vacation. Important to remember though, put it in a separate bank account. If you do not separate that money from the rest of your normal daily, monthly operating expenses, you are going to inadvertently spend it on something else. And then when it comes time to go visit your cousin Sid, you can't do it because the money just isn't there. Or worse yet, you reach for a credit card and you put it on a credit card knowing you can't afford to pay the bill when you get back. Set up a separate account, set up a nice, simple little plan like this, and it makes things much more manageable, much easier to get there. Now, a lot of you probably heard some cliche phrases out there, things like pay yourself first, right? And what we want to talk about here a little bit is when you're setting up these goals and your budget, it's important to have some certain key goals in there. And pay yourself first is an important one. And a lot of people out there have heard that phrase. So I'll throw it out to the audience again. Who out there has not heard of the phrase? I'll reverse the question. Who has not heard the phrase, pay yourself first? So you can just respond with not me, and we'll see how many of those come up. And I know I'm driving the people behind me nuts with all this. Um, but just respond not me. And I think it's a generational thing. I think people who are younger than 45 may not have heard the phrase and may not have heard the book, The Wealthy Barber. What I'm trying to get to here with all this is I live by it. All right, I like that one. Is this is something we've all done at some point in time in our lives. So just picture this. You got a stack of bills in front of you, right? And so what do? Pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills. Pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills. Pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills. Oh, hey, I'm done. I got an extra 50 bucks. I'm going to put that into savings. Hey, congratulations. You just paid yourself last. What we're trying to get to, what the phrase pay yourself first means, something they do talk about in the Wealthy Barbers. Let's go back to that stack of bills, right? Well, when you pay all the bills first and you put money into savings last, you paid yourself last. We want you to think of the money that goes into your savings account as a bill. It's a bill you owe to yourself. And like any bill, you want to pay it. But instead of paying it last, put it at the top of the pile. And that's what we mean by pay yourself first. And that's usually in the form of an automatic transfer. So your pay goes into your account and you automatically transfer money out of that account into a savings account. Maybe for that vacation to go see your cousin Sid, maybe for a TFSA, maybe for an RSP, whatever you want it to be. You set up that pattern of behavior, right? Patterns of behavior, so important. So that you set up that automatic transfer. I strongly recommend going out and getting the book, The Wealthy Barber, especially, the person who says they live by it. Yes, it is a little dated. Doesn't even talk about TFSAs. That'll give you an idea about it. But other than that, everything in there is so core and so valuable. And it's not a textbook. It's an easy read. It is so good to read because really what it's about this guy in small town Southern Ontario. And he's talking to his buddies, right? He's a barber. And, one of his customers says, basically, hey, no offense, but you're a barber. I mean, how did you get to be so wealthy? You're a barber. And so really the whole book is like a series of stories of him explaining to his customers how he got rich, how he got wealthy. And so it's an easy read and I strongly, strongly recommend it. And because I'm proudly cheap, don't go out and buy the book. Most libraries will have a copy. So go to library and get yourself a copy. It is an awesome, awesome book. So going back to pay yourself first, savings, think of it as a bill. You want to pay that first, set up those automatic transfers. Um, if you're having multiple accounts, as I said, as we get down towards the end, we'll show you how to condense it. So you shouldn't have any more than 6. So very few banks should charge you any fees, but it is good to be aware and just to keep an eye on that. All right, so now let's get into the budgeting basics, the core of this here a little bit. I've got another question for you. I should have warned the people I'm going to ask all these questions. What do you guys think and feel when you hear the word budget? Okay. Similar to the last question, what kind of feelings is this going to bring up? What does it bring to the surface? Fear, dread, excitement, yay, spreadsheets. That's me. What do you think about? Is it anxiety? Is it stress? Is it joy? There's so much out there. Boring. So we're getting some answers now. Boring, limited, something that's hard to do, anxiety. Well, let's talk about the something that's hard to do. Won't deny that. The first time you do a budget, it'll take you about an hour, hour and a half to do it properly the first time. But after that, I got a question coming up here. Oh, okay. Just to back up for half a second. The name of the book I was talking about is called The Wealthy Barber, and the author's name is David Chilton. That's Chilton. You might know him now from Dragon's Den. More recently, that's what he's on. Go to the library. I guarantee you they should have that. Okay, so other things that people are saying about budgeting: boring, limited, something that's hard to do, anxiety, no fun, safety, get her done. Review them every workday. Oh, I like that person, whoever said that. Overthinking, time commitment, planning, all great thoughts and all true. I do want to address where I was something hard to do. Initially, yeah, it'll take you an hour, hour and a half to do. I'm not going to deny that. Once you've got it done and set up properly, it's going to take you maybe 15 minutes a month to maintain it. So it's not a bad thing. What I'm trying to show here is that, again, a lot of people think and feel differently about budgeting. There's all these thoughts and feelings and out there, and honestly, most of them are somewhat negative. It's scary, it's taxing, it's stressful. It's going to take too much, out of me. I mean, I'm going to lose control, right? I'm going to be forced to save. I won't have control over my money. Okay, so that's where I want to take you off to a side again, and we have to change your perspective on the concept of budgeting. Um, I would challenge you to change your thinking in that if you do not have a budget, you do not have control. If you do not have a budget, you are not in control of your life. Your money is. Because whenever you want to spend any significant amount of money, and what is significant is going to vary to each of us, basically what you do is you turn to the money and you say, can I spend you? And you ask your money for permission. The very second you ask your money for permission, you have lost control and your money has gained control. But if you have a budget, you change that relationship. No longer do you ask for permission. With a budget, you turn to your money and you tell it through the budget what it is going to do for you. So a budget is not about losing control. A budget is all about gaining control. So I would challenge you to think of that differently. If you do not have a budget, you are not in control. Your money is. But I'll let you in on the secret. Some people don't like the term budget. So guess what? I don't have a budget. I have a spending plan. Wow, think about that for a second. Doesn't that sound kind of cool and liberating? Doesn't that empowering? Because think of it. What does a budget say? What's a budget about? A budget says, this is how I'm going to spend my money now. It says, this is how I'm going to save my money so I can spend it in the future. I don't have a budget. I have a spending plan. And that spending plan is based on my own choices and my personal priorities, which brings me right back to my money values. So your budget, your spending plan is absolutely based upon your money values. So again, it's core to understand what your money values are and how you think and feel about money. Okay. And just think about that phrase, right? If you tell a friend you've got a budget, right, they're going to go, whoa, whoa, wow, you must have financial problems because you have a budget, right? You tell them you've got a spending plan. Like that sounds kind of cool. It's kind of liberating. It's empowering. So throughout the rest of the session, I'm going to use the term spending plan and budget interchangeably, whatever you're comfortable with. Now, this is a little bit of technology we forgot to practice with, guys, where I need to pull up the Excel file. So we'll see how this works if I can figure this one out. So I promised you we weren't going to be doing a lot of math, and we're not. However, I do want to pull up an Excel file, and you can have access to the Excel file as well as the slide deck. It's a very, very good budget builder. It is so good. I love bragging about this. It's been adopted by the FCAC, which stands for the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. It's a federal government body who's in charge of the financial literacy of Canadians. And they loved our budget building tool so well, they borrowed it from us and they slapped it on their website and they gave us credit for it. So I'm going to, pardon me for a second while I turn to my techies. Guys, I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare the Excel file. I think that will work. Okay, they're nodding their heads up and down, so everybody cross your fingers. Okay, and I do not see my Excel file on my system tray. Let me go to my desktop. That's the one I need right there. Okay, for everyone who's watching me, we are getting there. And now I have to go back and find my screen to share with. I think we're almost there. Okay. Everyone now should be able to see the Excel file. It looks all good. Excellent. See, technology can be our friend. Okay, so we have an Excel file here that I'll go through with you. And we've got it filled in with some basic information just to let you see. So the first thing I want to point out, and we'll get up to the top here, is at the top it says your expenses are 100% of your income. When you do a budget, when you do a spending plan, it's fairly basic. You list your income, you list your expenses, and then you subtract your expenses from your income. The answer should be zero. That's called a balanced budget, right? Something our governments haven't quite figured out how to do yet, but maybe one day they'll get there. So your expenses equal your income. That is the goal for a budget. You should not have 40 bucks left over, because if you have 40 bucks left over, you've made a mistake. That 40 bucks should have been allocated either to savings or to paying off debt. So that's why you want to have a zero balanced budget. So in this example, expenses equal income, balanced budget. Awesome. So in this Excel file, which again, you can have access to, you can put in your name if you want, because we're going to print off some charts, and you can have your name in there if you'd like. We're going to ask you some questions, and it's not because we're nosy. It's because this Excel file is going to give you some answers that are customized based upon the information you tell us. So we need to know, do you have a spouse or a partner? Do we need to know how many people are being supported by this budget? Is this a budget for one person? Is a budget for 5 people? Because the answers will be different. Then we want to know, okay, generally, what's your high level reason why you're budgeting, why you're building a spending plan? What are you trying to achieve? So once we get that information, you put in your income. So this person in this example is $19.82 a month. You can change the frequency to whatever payment frequency you want. You can make some notes in here. Maybe you got a bonus or you won something on the lotto or whatever. Yes, you have to track that too. And so you can make a note here, in terms of what the event was. We've got a blank line in here, and you can insert some more if you want in case we've missed anything. So this person, their take home was $19.82 a month. So that's what actually gets deposited into their bank. So just a quick little calculation here. It'll tell you that, that's $23,784 for the year. Okay. So that's the easy part. That's the income portion. Now let's get to the trickier part, the expenses. We have separate sections for each expense category. So let's look at housing expenses. So based upon this person's income, because we know their income up here, and the size of their family unit, they're saying, okay, they shouldn't spend more than 35% of their income on housing expenses. And because we know their income, it does a quick calculation, $694. You enter your expenses, you're at the $500 mark, so which is below the range. So yay, you get a little green check mark. Now keep in mind, these are recommendations. Sometimes you'll be above, right? Sometimes you'll be below, but overall your expenses are equaling your income. So you've got that balance. So things won't always work out quite as nicely as they did here. Let's go into another category, utilities. So based upon this person's financial situation, the recommendation is don't spend more than 5% of the budget on utilities. We know their income, so that's $99 a month. They enter it, so they get a little gold caution sign here because they're a little over, right? They hit 130 instead of the 90 that was recommended, the 99 that was recommended. And again, that's okay, because overall, sometimes you'll be above, sometimes you'll be below, but overall you're balanced. But sometimes you just can't make it work. So I'm going to use food and groceries as an example, because so many of us are struggling in this category right now. So this person is told, based upon their situation, to spend 10 to 20%, they're given a range, or $198 to $396 on their groceries. So they're able to do it, $285, and that's tough to do now, right? So I'm just going to blow this right out of the water, and I'm going to change this, okay, to $12.50. Now notice right away, everything changed, right? This happy little green, that's gone, right? You get a great big warning sign up here. And right at the top here, some quick suggestions in terms of what you might be able to do and do some trimming to save it. But if I'm blowing my budget by that much, a little trimming here and there is not going to do it. So what we have in some of the expense categories, you can see my little cursor here, the cross. You can see how it changes to a hand as I move over to this hyperlink where the wording is in blue. That's called the hyperlink. If you were to click on it, it will take you to our education site, mymoneycoach.ca, and it would take you to a series of articles, tips, and hints specific to that expense category wherever you are on how to save money in it. So for example, on food and groceries, and we've got a separate webinar on that one as well, we can teach you how to save 25% on your grocery bill. So if you click on here because you're having problems, it will take you to this website for here. I won't do it now. We don't have time for it. And you will see a series of tips and articles on how to save that money. Okay, so I'm just going to reset this back to where it was and everybody's happy and in green again. So this is one of the things that really makes this unique is the customization plus the help that you can call out to specific to an expense category. So I won't go through everything in a ton of detail, but you can see we got a section on transportation, a section on clothing, a section on medical, a section on personal expenses broken down to work and living expenses. It is so detailed. We even have a section on hair care. And if you've been paying attention, you may have noticed I don't spend as much on that as I used to. So there are some advantages. It's a way to save money, right? There's a section here on children. There's a section here on savings. There's a section, of course, on debt payments. You'll notice here, when we add up all the expenses, it comes to 1982. You might recall the person's income was 1982. So that's what we mean by a balanced budget. Okay, so now over onto the side here, and to the right-hand side, we've got some charts. I won't go through all of them, but here's a key one, basic pie chart. What this one shows you is where your money is going. Okay, so I'm spending 25%. Oh, I got some questions coming up here. Before I get into the chart, comment. I had made myself a spreadsheet since I started to miss bill payments and NSS. Embarrassing. It happens to all of us. Don't worry about it. It helps me very much, especially as I have an overwhelming amount of loans and credit cards on tops of bills, bills, and bills. Okay, so the person who offered that comment, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to do a little bit of a sidetrack here. Um, this is what we're here for. Exactly the situation that you've mentioned, where someone's working and they're struggling to get by. They have the on NSF popping up. Credit cards and other loans are starting to cause stress. This can have an impact on your mental health and your physical health. So don't diminish that by any means. We will have some contact information for our group. Matter of fact, it's on the bottom of each slide, our phone number and our website. Call us. And honestly, please call us. You're exactly the type of person we could probably help, and you're exactly at the right stage. Some people, they wait until it gets to be a little too long, and it limits what we can do. There's so much we can offer, there's so much we can do to help. We've helped people pay, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of debt through very successful programs. We work with all the lenders, we work with all the credit card companies, they know us. And I'm confident that we can help you. So if you're in that situation, and this goes to everyone, not just the one person who was kind enough to share their situation, please, if you're struggling, you are not alone. Call as soon as you can. The sooner you call, the more likely we are to be able to help you. Okay, so now I got to pull myself back here. A question did come up. You said pay yourself first and leave other bills to do this. Okay, so let me correct that. I didn't say to leave the other bills. Okay, you need to have a spending plan. Okay, a budget. And within that spending plan where all those bills are, you have to recognize that savings is a bill and it's like any other bill. I'm not saying ignore the other bills. I'm saying make sure you take that savings bill and put it on the top of the list. So that is the first bill you pay. You cannot save yourself if you have any type of challenge if you do not have savings. Whether that savings is your emergency fund and nothing else, you need some form of savings. And then through your spending plan, you manage and you prioritize the other bills that are out there. I wouldn't ever want anyone to ignore a bill. So thank you for clarifying that. I do appreciate that. Susan, what about room for disposable income? So I'm not quite sure I understand that question, Susan. Do you mean how do you spend disposable income? You can absolutely put that in your spending plan if that's what you're referring to. You can actually put a line in your spending plan and call it mad money, $100 a month. No accountability. You can use it for whatever you want. That's disposable income. Planning for a vacation. That absolutely goes into your spending plan. That's disposable income. So if I haven't captured what you're looking for there, please clarify. Another comment from Linda. Thank you, Linda. I have a budget that lists all my bills. Awesome. And I know what I'm spending, but not as detailed as I like. I've been starting to save 10% of my gross pay. Perfect. And that's starting to save 10% of your gross pay. That's part of that pay yourself first concept. You now have to figure out where you're going to, oh, thank you, Susan. You now have to figure out where you're going to put it. So I'm a retired financial planner. I can't answer that. So I suggest you go talk to, someone at your bank or your credit union in terms of how to best allocate that, what makes the most sense for you, an RSP, a TFSA, something else. And then even within that, what type of investment specifically? I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole because yes, guess what? We've got another webinar topic on that one, investment basics. But you're doing exactly the right thing, and 10% is a good rule of thumb that a lot of people try to follow. So congratulations, you're absolutely doing the right thing. If you want an Excel file that's more detailed, you will have access to this. And it is very, very detailed. Oh, well, someone already uses my money coach, so thank you very much. You don't put your own, and this is a comment from a person saying that they love using my money coach, but they don't feel comfortable putting their own personal information on there. Don't. There's a big button on my money coach. You go to tools, and there'll be a big button about a third of the way down on your right hand side that says download. And you can download this Excel file. So then it'll be within your system. It's not on our network. We don't want your personal financial information on our network like that. Trust me. And no, it would not be safe. You don't want to do that. But you can download it or you can wait and someone over here will be sending out the slide deck and the Excel file. So you'll have access to it as that. And if you have any questions, you can call our toll-free number and someone can help you with the budgeting process or you can talk directly to a credit counselor. Just a quick reminder that for any questions that you have, please send them to the all panelists so we can make sure that they all come through and that we can see all the questions that are popping up. And thanks for the questions, guys. I do love it when you ask questions. It shows I'm keeping you awake and you're not falling asleep. And really, that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so back to the pie charts. So this pie chart shows that this person is spending 25% on housing, 14% on food, 9% on personal, 23% on debt. Wow, that seems kind of high, doesn't it? Right? Maybe I want to look at that one a little more closely. So I'm just going to scroll up. I'm going to bypass a couple of other hyperlinks and some tips. I'm going to go to another chart. And what this chart does here is on the left-hand side, it lists all the expense categories that we were talking about. And then over here, it shows the recommended range, and the dark bar shows where you actually are. So sometimes you're a little bit above the range, sometimes you're a little bit below the range, sometimes you're near the middle. But on this one, debt payments, like, oh my, like, wow, I am way, way, way off the chart on this. And this could be one of two situations. I could be looking at this, and let's say this is me, and I could say, yeah, absolutely, I know that's what's happening. That's my plan. I'm carrying debt. Interest rates are starting to go up. I want to throw every spare dollar I can to get against it so that, before I get into any trouble, I can address it and pay off my debt as quickly as possible. And if I'm doing this and I know I'm doing this and my expenses equal my income, perfect. That's exactly where you want to be. But if I look at this and I go, holy, oh my, wow, I had no idea that debt was consuming so much of my income. Well, that's when the statement up here, your expenses are 100% of your income, can be actually hiding the problem. Because you see this, hey, great, my budget, my spending plan is balanced. But buried underneath is the fact that your debt is getting away from you. So this is why I really like this chart. After you enter your information, take a closer look at this chart and make sure that things are pretty much where you think they should be. Because this statement up here can very easily hide a problem. And by the time this problem bubbles up to the surface, your options could be limited. And we don't want you to get to that place. So I absolutely love this Excel file. Okay, got another question here. People have talked a lot about coupons, but it doesn't work for me as most of the items are not something I use. Thoughts? Linda, that's an excellent question. If we have time at the end, I can address that. That again is a separate topic. We got one called Food and Finance where we talk about groceries and how to save money. And I don't have time to get really deep in here, or Kyle or someone's going to pull me off the floor real fast. So, question from Janie, do we have a retirement seminar? Yes, we have several. So just float that topic up to whoever within your leadership. I'm sorry, I don't know your org structure well enough. And if they want me to come back and do a retirement session, we have several that we could possibly do. Okay, now everyone cross your fingers because I'm going to stop sharing and hope the technology gods are working with me. And because now I have to go back and find my presentation. There it is. And reshare. And if everything works. Okay, I think we're all good. Slide deck's back up. Awesome. Okay, see, technology can be your friend. All right, so let's get back into the slide deck. How am I doing for time? I'm pretty much on track. Our first break will probably be maybe around 7:15. Okay, so your budget, what's it include? Your take-home pay, your net pay, we just saw that, your monthly living expenses, your irregular expenses, your emergency expenses, and those are two separate things. We'll be talking about that. And of course, your savings expenses, and that's important. Don't forget to think of your savings as an expense. That's part of that shift in the mindset. It's an expense, it's a bill, and like any other bill, I got to make sure I pay it. All right, so question time for everyone. Who out there has a budget? Okay, so just throw out a quick I do into the Q&A, and then they'll put it up there so I can see how many people say that they do. Okay, Linda says she does. Miranda, I'm sure more than two of you have a budget. Come on. Oh, Easter, you've given me a perfect answer when you say sometimes. Oh, Susan gave me a perfect answer. I sort of. So Easter, Susan, you don't have a budget. Sorry, guys. Janie says yes, she does. Okay. Brent. Oh, sorry, Brent. Okay. My wife and I do. And that's a really good answer when you both have a budget. It means you're working on it together. Okay, so for those of you who have a budget or who say you have a budget or believe you have a budget, do you track your expenses? Just give me a simple yes or no. Do you track your expenses? These people behind me are doing great because all your answers get typed up in front of me. Okay, that's no why I'm here. That's an excellent answer, by the way. We do, yes, 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 but I stopped. Okay, so for the people who say yes, but I stopped, or people who say no, that's why I'm here, or say I sort of track my expenses, well, I'm sorry, guys, you don't have a budget either. You have a wish list. But that's not bad. It's halfway there. I want you to think of it this way. Your budget, your spending plan, well, really what it says, let's say this is your spending plan here. What does it say? It says, gee, that's how I wish I was spending my money. Okay. Let's say over here we have tracking. Tracking says this is how I really spend my money. Okay. We need the reality of tracking to talk to the wish list of the spending plan so they become integrated. If I take away my tracking, right? Poof, it goes away. All I'm left with is the wish list. Wishing isn't going to pay the bills, guys. You need to track your expenses. You need to know where your money is going. You need to know where everything's going. I love the one comment there. I used to track my expenses, but it was too much of an eye opener. Perfect. That's exactly what it should be, right? You need to track your expenses. And when I talk to people, and sometimes they say, "Oh, come on, really? Do I have to track everything? I mean, what's a cup of coffee and a muffin, right? $2 here, $3 there. What does it matter? If you lose $5 a day, just $5 a day, you will lose $1,825 a year, almost 2 grand, because you didn't want to track that cup of coffee and a muffin. So do you have to track everything? Yes. If you really want to be able to get in control of your money and get in control of your life, you need to know where that money is going. So that statement up there was perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I love it. I used to, but it was too much of an eye opener. That's exactly what it needs to be, because expense tracking, it's what's going to make your budget, make your spending plan work. It shows you the truth about your habits. It shows you the reality of your relationship. It shows you the good parts, and like any relationship, it shows you the bad parts. By identifying those bad parts, that's showing you where to make those changes. And once you make those changes, that is how you get back in control. Tracking is key. It is key. If you have a financial planner, you should have a financial plan, but you can't have a financial plan unless you have a spending plan, and you cannot have a spending plan unless you track your expenses. That is the key to everything, going all the way up to your retirement financial plan. It's not going to be effective. It is not going to work unless you track. And I can say that because my old hat used to be a financial planner. When I was working with people, I couldn't work. I could not build someone a financial plan unless they had a spending plan, and they did not have a spending plan unless they tracked their expenses. I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. How do I track my expenses? I don't care. Whatever way makes sense for you, whatever way works for you is the right way. The only way is the way that makes sense for you. You can use pen and paper. You can get a tracking booklet from us. You can go back to our My Money Coach website. You can see it's at the bottom of the screen there. You can download tracking booklets. You can download spreadsheets from us. We got spreadsheets that will cover the entire year if you want. You can use the envelope method. My sister uses that one, where she has an envelope for every expense category. She throws the receipts in there. It doesn't matter what system you use. Just use the system that works for you and then work the system. That's all it really takes. Now, when you're doing your budget, when you're doing your spending plan, you're going to run into something called an irregular expense. And what that means is a regular expense happens every month. It's clockwork. It's easy to remember. It's your car payments, your mortgage, your rent. An irregular expense will happen somewhere in the year, but does not happen every year, or rather every month. So how do you manage that? How do you keep track of it? So what we've done here is we've created a chart that's broken irregular expenses into 4 categories. This is not a complete listing and is not specific to everyone. What I mean by that is, okay, let's say I've got property taxes here, right? Well, we have our choice. We can pay property taxes monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual. I pay mine monthly. That means it's a regular expense, does not apply. I would cross this off the list. City utilities, perfect. I pay that every 3 months. That is an irregular expense. I know it's going to happen somewhere in the course of the year, but it doesn't happen every month. So what we suggest you do is you take this chart, you print it off, you cross off the things that do not apply to you, you put in the things that we've missed because it is not a complete list, you put a dollar amount next to each one. And you put a dollar amount next to each one because that's going to give you an idea in terms of where you need to go, right? It needs to, how much money you need to cover this off. And the next thing we're going to do is really exciting and really fun because guess what? We're going to create a goal, right? Goals are fun, right, guys? You're with me on this. Goals are fun. What do goals have? Goals always cost you 2 things, time and money. Okay, so what's our goal statement? Well, our goal statement is to save for irregular expenses. Goals cost me 2 things, time and money. I've identified my financial cost on this one here. It's going to be $3,000. My time cost, I'm budgeting over a year. So my time cost will be a year. I get paid every 2 weeks, 26 paydays. I'm going to divide that 26 into the 3,000. That tells me put aside $116 every pay cycle and put that into a separate account. That way, when those irregular expenses come up, I have the cash to cover it. Because what happens if you do not have the cash to cover it? You're going to reach for a credit card. If you reach for a credit card, well, if you don't have the cash now, you're probably not going to have the cash 30 days later when that credit card bill comes. And remember, the second most common reason why people run into financial challenges is excessive use of credit for daily living expenses, like an irregular expense. You don't think you have to save for it, but you do. It is the second most common reason people get tripped up financially. So very important to have this set up. And again, in a separate bank account, do not commingle your funds. Keep them separate and apart. Another thing we have to prepare for is an emergency. How do I do that? Because isn't an emergency by very definition unknown, unknowable? I don't know when, what if, however, how much, if ever, I'm going to run into. And if I'm lucky, I can go years without running into an emergency. So how do I plan for something that is by its nature unknown and unknowable? Well, it's not that hard. General rule of thumb is you need to have an emergency fund. Okay, the value of this emergency fund should equal about 3 months worth of expenses. Okay, why do we say 3 months worth of expenses? That is because, if you may recall, number one emergency that hits most people is job loss. On average, it takes someone about 3 months to find a replacement job. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's longer, but it's about 6 months. So that's why they say 6 months is the target. If you should find yourself in that situation, then between your emergency fund of 3 months plus any severance package, EI, and whatever else you have coming your way, you should be well positioned. An emergency fund is also good, if the transmission falls out of the car or the roof gets blown off. but this is why we say 3 months. So we're going to do something really exciting again. We're going to have another goal, right? Goals cost two things, right? Say it to yourself, time and money. Very important that you internalize that. So here, what's my goal? I want to save for an emergency fund. Goals cost two things, time and money. What's the financial cost? I have no idea. It's going to be different for each of you. So once you figure out your spending plan, your budget, and your expenses, multiply that by 3, that's going to be your financial cost. What's my time cost? Again, I have no idea. That's up to you. What do you feel comfortable with? Do you want to push it through quickly and do it in 6 months? That might be 13 paydays. Do you want to wait a year? 26 paydays? Do you want to wait 2 years? 52 paydays? I wouldn't recommend going much further out than 2 years if you have nothing to start off with, because you need some sort of basis. But once you figure that out, right, you take your time costs and paydays, you divide that into the financial cost, you break it down into those itty bitty bite-sized pieces, and you open up a separate bank account. Really, really important that you have a separate account for your emergency fund. Okay, I got another question coming up here from, is it Easter or Esther? So my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. So the question, credit cards are my greatest challenge because I know I should be paying them off monthly, but bad habit of maxing it out and ending up paying catch up for a long time. You're absolutely not alone on this. That is a very, very common problem. I will actually be talking about that in part 2. My mindset is to stop using the credit card until I pay it off and start over that way, unless you have a better suggestion. Um, we're kind of going into another topic we've got called debt solutions, which addresses the best way to pay it off. Okay, I'm going to kind of maybe squeeze into my time a little bit, but this is a really important question. There are lots of ways and strategies you can take. There is one strategy that says basically you list all your credit cards, the interest rates, and the amount owing, and create a little chart. And then what you should do is find the debt that you owe that has the smallest amount owing on it. Make your minimum payment, just your minimum payment on everything else, and throw everything you've got to spare against that one. And because it has the smallest balance, it won't take you hopefully too long to pay it off. And what that gives you, it gives you a bit of a rush. Like, hey, I did it. I beat it. I got that one paid off. Who's next? Let's line them up. Who's next? And it can really help motivate you by addressing the smallest one first while you still keep the minimum on everything else. Other people look at it a little bit differently, and the reverse position might be, I'm going to pay off the one that has the highest interest rate first. So I'll make minimum payments on everybody else, and I'll slap everything I can against the one with the highest interest rate. Both are valid approaches. You just need to figure out what approach makes the most sense to you and then start tackling it. Again, if you want to discuss this some more at the end, I can stay on and we can chat a bit more. I just don't want to direct too much time away from this topic because I'm already running just a little bit late. Okay, some more good questions though, so I'm going to keep answering those. So I do appreciate them. One from Janie, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Using my TFSA as an emergence fund makes money with investing, and fingers crossed, all will be good. That's not a bad approach, but it can be a dangerous approach depending upon how you use it. Having your TFSA as an emergency fund can be perfectly fine if you have a TFSA account set up for other purposes, if you have RSP set up for other purposes, because the odds are pretty good at some point in time you're going to need to take money out of the emergency fund, and that means no tax implications. So it might not be a bad strategy. I would suggest talking to your account manager at the bank or the credit union or a financial planner if you have access to one. Um, I can't say if it's a good strategy for you because I don't know your whole financial picture, right? I just got a little window into a little piece of it. I would need to know your whole financial picture to know if that's a good strategy for you. It could be effective. It could be a little dangerous. So I would strongly recommend chatting with a financial planner on that one. Another one here, would it be better to not use credit card unless it's an emergency? That's what I've been taught. Um, okay. I'll give an unusually direct answer for me. No. We'll be talking about this in credit in the next half. It's important to remember credit is neither good nor bad. It is all about how you use it. If you understand credit and you use it correctly, and you don't have to wait for an emergency, you don't want to really use it for an emergency. Um, it can be awesome because if you use it for an emergency, the odds are pretty good you will not have the funds to pay it off. So I'll be talking about that a little bit in part two. And if I don't address it properly for you, please feel free to bring it up again. Okay, so let's say we're doing well with this. Our savings are piling up, our emergency funds piling up, our irregular expenses are piling up. We're doing great. How do we keep that money safe from us? Because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, right? We all have these things that distract us, the things that pull us away from what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. For me, it's electronics. I can go into a store to buy a mouse, and I might see like a 2 terabyte hard drive, SSD drive, and oh my God, I gotta get it, right? And for some people, it's clothes and jewelries and all those types of things. For those of you who have a dog out there, think about your dog, or if anyone who's ever had a dog or taken a dog for a walk, think about what it can be like taking a dog for a walk. They're bright, they're sharp, they're focused, they're paying attention, they're beside you, they're healing, everything's perfect, and then a squirrel comes by, right? What happens? The dog goes, squirrel, 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 squirrel. It forgets absolutely everything it's just learned and it just focuses on that squirrel. Well, we all have our own squirrels and we need to figure out what these squirrels are and how to avoid them. So how do we do this? Well, there's a few ideas that you can manage around this. Get rid of your bank cards. Most people go, oh my God, no, not my bank cards. Okay. So your bank cards are typically linked to a savings account, checking account. Figure out which account has the most money, take it off your bank card so you can only access the smallest amount of money. For those of you who are wondering how am I doing on time, 10 minutes at most, so about quarter after we can go for a break. Um, you can set up a joint account, but it's important that you set up a joint account that has a multiple signature option. And what I mean by that, if you have a partner who's a spendaholic, substance abuse, a gambler, whatever it may be, and you have a joint account with them, your partner has equal access to that money 100%, can go in, suck it all out, go spend it on the casino, and it's time to pay the mortgage and you don't have any money. Okay, that is not a good situation. That is a joint single signature account where either person can pull out all the money. If you get a multiple signature account, that means I cannot access the money unless my partner authorizes it. To be fair, my partner cannot access that money unless I authorize it. So now it takes two signatures to access the money. So if you have a partner who has a poor relationship with money, you might want to set up a joint multiple signature account. We talked about automatic transfers, so we can park that one. Going to a branch to withdraw cash is really important to have a relationship with your lender, with your financial institution. So it's a good way to do that. And my absolute all-time favorite, sandwich bag method. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. So get ready for the answer here. You get a sandwich bag, one of those resealable ones at the top. Inside, you put your credit cards, your plastic, your bank cards, your ATM cards, all your credit cards, all your pieces of plastic go in there. You fill it with water and you seal it. What do you think you do with it next? That's my question for you guys. What do you think you do with it? Okay, the first person, I don't know who said it, but you got it right. You freeze it. You may have heard the phrase, freeze your assets. We don't want you to freeze your assets. We want you to freeze your credit. And that's because the next time that bright, shiny thing goes running across your screen, the next time your personal squirrel is in front of you, jewels, clothes, shoes, electronics, whatever it is, you can't just take out your credit card and buy it. You got to grab that block of ice out of the freezer, plop it down the counter, stare at it, and think hot, nasty thoughts and wait for that ice to melt. It doesn't matter if it's 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 minutes. It gives you the cause to pause. It gives you that opportunity to step back and say, is this really what I want to spend my money on? Is this really what I am trying to do? It sounds corny. It is, but it's also very, very effective. Freeze your credit. It works really, really well. And by the way, do not put the chunk of ice in the microwave. It's still plastic and metal. Your plastic's going to melt. The metal's going to give you blue sparks and you might need a new microwave. Not a good way to save money. All right, so now we're going to bring all these ideas together a little bit into paycheck planning. Paycheck planning basically says, hey, we know when money's coming in, we know when money's going out. Let's try and get them to intermingle. Let's try and get those two time periods to line up as much as we possibly can. In order for this to work, you have to realize that expenses come into three categories. Fixed expenses, and those are ones that the date and the dollar amount don't change, like rent and mortgage and car payments. Variable expenses, and those are ones that vary a little bit. That's things like entertainment and groceries and gas for the car. And your savings expenses. We have these three categories. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a little plan here. So let's pretend this top line up here where you see 1982. You remember 1982 from that budgeting file? Well, this is where that person's income goes into. So this is their main account. This is account one. So then I'm going to set up a second account, one for fixed expenses, a third one, variable expenses, and a fourth one, savings expenses. So now I've got a total of 4 accounts. Then I'm going to list off my fixed expenses, the dollar amount, and total it up. Then I'm going to list off my variable expenses, the dollar amount, and total it up. I'm going to list off my savings expenses, and here I can put down what type of savings expense it is, the dollar amount, and total it up. So the first thing to notice is my total expenses is 1982. It equals my income. Awesome. I balanced. But big deal. How does that help me? Okay, so what I'm going to do is my pay goes into this main account automatically. From here, I'm going to set up an automatic transfer into my fixed expense account, and that's going to happen twice a month for $606, cover off my fixed expenses. I'm going to set up a second automatic transfer from my main account into my variable expenses, but this one is going to happen weekly for $125. If I throw $500 in here all at once, poof, it's going to be gone in a week or so, and then I'm out of money. And this is the account that I tap into the most often. This is the one and the only one my bank card should be linked to. So I'm going to resupply it weekly with $125. I'll set up a third automatic transfer into my savings expense. This is going to be twice a month for $135, and that's going to cover off my expenses. So once more, my pay goes in here automatically. Automatic transfer to fixed expenses twice a month. Automatic transfer into my variable expenses weekly. Automatic transfer into my savings twice a month. Once you set this up, and I've been doing this since forever and it works great, your money comes in automatically. It gets transferred into these accounts automatically. Some of your payments can go out automatically. You just sit back and watch the money flow. And it is a beautiful, beautiful system. I haven't had an NSF in like 30 years. This is an awesome system. I've been using it since before I knew it was called this. And if you're not computer friendly, walk into your bank or your credit union. They can help you set up a plan just like this with all these automatic transfers. If you're computer friendly, it is super easy to do at home. This is an awesome plan. I do this with 3 accounts. This person here does it with 4 accounts. The person on this slide does it with 6 accounts, right? Instead of one savings account, they've broken it down into 3 additional ones. What I'm trying to show here is it doesn't matter how many accounts, right? Take the idea, take the concept, tweak it so it makes sense to you. If it makes sense to you, you will actually do it. And if you do it, you will be successful. If you come away from this session tonight and you do nothing, then I'm sorry you'll have wasted, an hour and a bit from this, an hour and a bit from the other one. And I don't want you to waste your time. Take something from this, put it into practice, and you will notice some changes pretty quickly. And then from there, you can start looking at all the other things we've been talking about. At this stage, I should have thrown in something into chat for you. Hey, my crew in the background, if there's any way you could put the link and toss it out to everybody, that would be great. If not, I understand. I should have asked you before. I'm going to ask you guys, everyone who's out there, if you could complete a survey for us. If we can't get this out to you as a link, just type it straight into a browser, maybe write it down on a piece of paper for now. It's really important to us as an organization to get your feedback. We pull our survey, our webinars twice a year. Based upon your survey feedback, we make changes. Honestly, it's also important to me. It's part of my annual review, which does not mean I want a gushing review. We look at numbers. So I don't know, let's say we've got 300 people on and I get 150 responses. That's only half. So my director says, well, that's only half the people. They didn't really get value out of what you were talking about if only half of them responded. So it's really important to us as an organization. It's really important to me personally. If you want to say thank you, the best way to say thank you, if you got any value out of this, is to complete the survey. So that's my pitch for the survey. Okay, starting my wrap up mode now. You need to plan for your budget. You need to track your expenses. If you do not track your expenses, you do not have a spending plan. All you have is a wish list. That's halfway there, but that's not good enough. You need to create that plan for your irregular expenses. Create that all important emergency fund. Tracking is so important. I'm going to mention it a few times before I wrap up here. Track, track, track. If you want some more resources, the mymoneycoach.ca is our education website. If you want to call and chat with someone, there's our toll-free number at the bottom there. It's at the bottom of every second slide. You can give us a call. Oh, and I love this when I'm talking to a CRA as part of my audience. I got to get a little dig in. When you call us, it's not like calling CRA when you're on hold for 2 hours. We answer our phone in 10 seconds or less. CRA doesn't like it when I say that one. But no, because if you're calling us, you're in perhaps in some level of stress. So we do want to be able to grab that phone quickly for you. Hopefully now you're able to reflect on your money values and realize, money is a lot about how you think and feel about money. It's not just about the numbers. You can understand how important tracking is to be successful with your budgeting and your spending plan, how to manage those irregular and emerging expenses, how to create and organize your savings. It's very important to have that type of a plan. Now, look at that. I said I'd be finished about 7:15. I hit it dead on. We're going to take a little bit of a break here. We'll say for about 5 minutes because my next session is Truth About Credit. And that one, I got a lot of questions on this one. But the truth about credit, it is going to generate a lot more questions because credit is funky. There's no other way to describe it. There's so much weird stuff out there that you never heard about. Question came up, which drop-down survey? This one would be, the full title is Making Sense of Money Budgeting 101. That's the full title for the first half we just did. The title for the next one will be easier, so don't worry. So we'll take a break. It is 16 minutes after. I will get started again at 7:21. Hope to see everyone in 5 minutes and that I haven't put anyone to sleep. I'll see you all soon. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're at 21 past. I'll wait just a little bit longer. Give a couple of seconds to anyone who's still straggling on in. Um, our next session we're going to be talking about is the truth about credit. I'm going to skip my preamble because I'm hoping I didn't lose too many people and everyone heard the preamble, the first part about who we are and what we do. If not, there's the recording. So hopefully everyone has joined us by now. So I'm just going to jump right in. Our next session is the truth about credit. It's one of my favorite ones. Um, there's no easy way to put it. Credit is weird, and we're going to get into just some of the weird stuff. This particular session done in its entirety is like a half-day workshop, but we squeezed it down into some of the really core critical stuff for you. So hopefully we'll get everything in there. Specifically on our agenda, we're going to talk about credit wellness. How are we doing as a nation on credit? What is credit and how do we use it? Cost of credit, which is interest rate, credit traps, some of the tricks that sometimes merchants will use to get you to buy stuff that you don't necessarily need to get into. And we'll talk about the importance of your credit history. And of course, we'll talk about credit ratings, credit reports, and that all important credit score. We'll talk about the oddities of credit. That's the really weird, funky stuff. We'll talk about how to improve your credit, and we won't have any time to cover facts and myths. I knew that when I put this together, but I included it in the slide deck anyways for everyone who wants the slide deck. They can go through it and get some additional resource information for themselves that way. All right, so credit wellness. How are we doing as a nation? Well, let's start off with 29% of those with high debt suffer from severe anxiety. 72% of us say we have high debt, so there are a very significant number of anxious people out there. 35% of Canadians struggle to pay their bills at the end of the month. So I'm just down to my second bullet here, and already over a third of the country is struggling to pay their bills. 40% of Canadians don't pay off their credit card at the end of the month simply because they can't afford to do so. 45% of employed Canadians find their debt level overwhelming. Now, this is a really strong word. It's a powerful word. That means it doesn't go away. They're always thinking about it. It's always there. And that goes back to the mental stress and the physiological aspects of that stress that we were talking about in part one. And, credit card debt is a very big piece of that. 44% of working Canadians would find it hard to meet their financial obligations if their pay was delayed 1 week. Let's rephrase that one a little bit, make it a little bit easier to understand. almost half the country is a week away from being broke. Can't put it any easier than that. 50% of Canadians come right on out and say, hey, we're living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Canadians, as we mentioned in part one, have no budget. I do not think that's a coincidence. I strongly believe that if that half the country that did not have a budget had a budget, people would be in a much, much better position than what they currently are. For every dollar of after-tax income, that's every dollar that gets deposited into your bank from your source of income, the average Canadian owes $1.83. During COVID, it went down to $1.52, and that's the first time I'd ever seen it go down, and that was a significant drop. Once all the financial supports disappeared, it shot right back up. The previous high was $1.72. It kept going, and right now it's at $1.83. So how are we doing? How are things looking? Well, not so good. Honestly, we kind of suck. Can I say that, Kyle? Okay, Kyle says I can say that. We kind of suck. Um, it's important to know that it's not the financial institutions. The financial institutions themselves are sound and solid. We are one of the best regulated countries out there in terms of our financial institutions. For those of you who might remember the big correction, we don't like the word crash, that happened in 2008, 2009. Uh, Canada was relatively unimpacted by that. I mean, there was an impact, but relatively compared to the rest of the world, it wasn't as significant here. And that's because our financial institutions are very stable and they're well regulated. All this scary data up here, that's all from us. This is from individual consumers because we're not using credit correctly. And for the most part, we're not using credit correctly because we don't understand how it works. We think we do, but we really don't. We'll go back to what I was saying at part one when I introduced myself in the first half. So just a quick background. I'm a retired CFP in the industry for 25 years. I taught financial planning for several years. I've got my securities, and I'm not patting myself on the back here. I got it with honors. I mentioned that because it had a 50% failure rate. In the industry for 25 years, taught all this stuff. 90% of the stuff we're going to cover off today, I didn't know. With all that background, with all that experience, I didn't know because we simply aren't taught that. So I got a couple of quick questions coming up already from Kim. How much is too much debt? That varies with every person. Too much debt is when you start to worry about it. That's too much debt. Too much debt is when you're starting to struggle. If you ever get to the stage of food or mortgage, you're past too much debt. You're in a crisis situation, and you need to reach out. If anyone has gotten to that stage, you need to reach out for help right away. Um, the options that anyone, I'm not saying just us, the options that anyone can offer you get very limited if you get to that stage. So again, a great question. Thank you. If you're having any significant struggles, you need to reach out for help. It can be anyone, doesn't have to be us, but absolutely reach out for help. Another question. Oh, it's already been answered about this session being recorded, so I can skip that and keep on going. So thank you to the people in the back who answered the question. Okay, so what's credit? Okay, so this is going to be out for everyone. This is audience participation time again. Give me a definition of credit. Doesn't have to be elaborate or expansive. Just, if you had to tell someone what credit is, quickly define it. How would you define credit? What's credit to you? And don't worry, it doesn't have to be big or thinky. Oh, I see some things popping up here in chat. Money that isn't yours. Borrowed money. That's good. And don't worry, no wrong answer, right? Credit is made up of money. Money borrowed and the ability to repay it. Great answers. Borrowing money. How the government tracks your worth. That's a part of it too. Absolutely. Credit is made up money. I like that one. That's interesting. I haven't heard that before. Someone else's money. Great answers. Absolutely great answers. Thank you for sharing that. So a traditional definition of credit might be something like borrowing money from a third party, typically a financial institution, with the intent to pay it back at a future date with the prescribed interest rate and a set amortization table. Wow, right? Who in the world is going to remember that? Quite a mouthful. So I have a much easier definition of credit. I'm sure you'll remember this. Credit's like a drug. That's easy to remember. Think of it like a drug. It can be very, 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 very easy to access. Like a drug, it can be highly, highly addictive. Like a drug, if it's used correctly, the way it's supposed to be used, it can be extremely beneficial. But unfortunately, also like a drug, if it's used in ways it was never intended to be used, It can drag you down into a dark, dark place so fast you'll have no idea how to get there and how you can get back. So credit's like a drug, but it's not just any type of drug. It's a very particular drug. And it is either, and of itself, it is neither good nor bad. It is about how you use it. So what type of drug is it? It's opium. As someone else mentioned up there on the chart, that means other people's money. OPM. So credit's like a drug. What kind of drug? It's opium, other people's money. And it might sound a little lighthearted, but it's a good way to think of it because as we get further into this, the credit products are getting kind of confusing. And sometimes you're not sure if you're actually using credit. So ask yourself, am I a user? Am I using opium? Am I using other people's money? And if the answer is yes, then you're using credit. And sometimes it can be hard to tell. But just because credit's like a drug of itself, neither good nor bad, it's all about how you use it, that doesn't mean we get to blame the pharmacist. We do not get to blame the provider of credit. If you hurt your back and you get a prescription for a painkiller and you go to a pharmacy and get it filled and you take the painkillers and you abuse it and you become addicted, nobody goes back to the pharmacist and blames them because the pharmacists did their role in our society, in our culture. They gave us access to the medicine. Then it's up to us to learn how to use it correctly. Well, credit's the same way. The providers of credit, I will grant you, may be a little aggressive at times in terms of how they provide us access to credit, but it's up to us to determine how we're going to use it. When you get a prescription from a pharmacist, they give you a little booklet, how to take your drugs. When you get credit, you get a slightly thicker booklet that says how to use credit. Who reads it, right? If you get a new prescription, you're going to read it. If you get credit, you throw the book away. Nobody reads it. And then we blame the provider of credit because we got into trouble. We didn't understand how to use it. We thought we did. We didn't read the manual, right? It's really important sometimes when people talk to me and they blame their lender. Oh, why did they give me so much money? Why did they give me such a big limit? And they're blaming the lender. And I'm sorry, that's a crutch. I kick it out real fast. I mean, I kick it out fast because if you're blaming someone else for your problem, you are never going to get better. You have to acknowledge that these were my decisions. Who decided to buy the car I couldn't afford? Who decided to put an entire vacation on a credit card? Right? I did. Well, who's responsible for it? Fine, I guess I am. People need to make that connection. You cannot blame the provider of credit. You cannot blame the pharmacist. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples here. And I'll go through a variety of different marketing schemes that are out there. Everyone, my example, my goal here rather is for everyone to be like Harvey. See Harvey? He's my little mouse in the corner here. I call him my credit aware consumer because he realizes his credit offer here in front of him, his piece of cheese, it can be tasty. It can be a great morsel. It can be good for him. It can be nutritious. He needs that to survive. And we do need credit to survive in our culture. But he also realizes if he doesn't know how to access it, if he doesn't do it properly, it can be a bit of a deadly trap. So he's wearing his little helmet here. So he's my credit aware consumer. My goal here is by the time we're done is for everyone to be a credit aware consumer, right? So let's take a little bit of a closer look at this. So here is a very common problem that people get into, credit cards, and they get caught in the mindset of the minimum monthly payments. So I'll use a common example that you might see at 2 in the morning if you're watching TV, fitness equipment. You'll see these ads on TV, for as little as so much a month, for little as so much a month, and they just hammer it into you over and over again, right? So let's see that ad on TV, and it says for little as $60 a month. And those ads usually go for as little as $60 a month. You can get all this great equipment and you can have a body like this, right? That's how they go. And they hammer it into you over and over. $60, $60, 60. Pretty soon your brain absorbs, hey, this is a great deal. I can get all this stuff for $60. Well, you forget the $60 a month part. So let's look at what happens when you get caught into that mindset of I'm going to make just the minimum monthly payments. Let's look, maybe we'll shift gears to a standard credit card. If my minimum monthly payment is $60 a month, that's 2% of the outstanding balance. Standard rate is 19.9%. Working backwards, don't worry, you don't have to do the math. That means I'm carrying a balance of $3,000. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a question. So all my friends in the back, get ready for this. Here's the question. You have a credit card carrying a balance of $3,000, 19.9% interest, which is a standard rate. You're making just your minimum monthly payment. How long do you think it's going to take you to pay off that $3,000 credit card? Okay, I got some 5 years popping up here. I got some 20 years popping up. Too long. 25 years. 2 years, forever. Okay, so let's stop there. Thank you for those answers. The person who said forever, you're probably the closest because it's going to take you about 53 years to pay that off. If you bought that fitness equipment I was just talking about, you'll probably be dead before you pay that sucker off, but you'll be looking good, right? Because you've been using it for 53 years. It's not like you're going to hang your laundry on it. Nobody does that. 53 years, and guess what? You're going to pay almost $13,000 in interest. By the time you're finished, it's going to cost you almost $16,000, more than 5 times the original purchase price. If that isn't scary enough, the average Canadian is carrying a bill of $5,000 on their credit card from month to month and not paying it off, just making the minimum monthly payment. At that rate, it will take them 65 years to pay it off and $22,000 in interest. Oh yeah, and about 31% of us are doing just that, making the minimum payment or less on their credit cards and line of credit. Look at the financial implications of that. Now, credit is neither good nor bad, and that's a mantra you have to repeat. Credit is neither good nor bad. It is all about how you use it. So let's look at this and make it better. We're going to stick with $3,000, still 19.9% interest, but instead of making just that minimum monthly payment, which is such a dangerous pattern to get into, I'm going to put an extra 40 bucks on it. Just an extra 40 bucks, and that's going to bring it up to $100. Okay? By doing that, I'm going to take the time it takes to pay it with just 40 bucks. 40 bucks is going to drop it from about 53 years down to 3.5 years. Just 40 bucks is knocking off almost 50 years of payments. I don't have time to go completely onto a side on this, but think if you can take this concept and apply it to a car loan. Maybe you can take it and apply this concept to mortgages. Now, the math is calculated differently, but the concept still holds. You can save tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Try and get an accelerated weekly mortgage. That's the best way you're going to save. It'll cost you just a smidgen more per month, but you are going to save a bucket load of money. And in this case, in this example, instead of almost $13,000 in interest, it's a little over $1,000. Instead of almost $16,000 in total, it's just a little over $4,100. Credit is neither good nor bad. It's all about how you use it. You just need to understand how it works. So quick comment that came up from Easter says, this reminds me of when I got approved for $4,000 with an APR of 45%. Could you quickly touch on APR? Esther, that's perfect. I will be touching on that in, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 slides. So again, if I don't respond to your question to that in everything you would like to see, throw the question back up. One thing I do say to people is the interest rate someone charges you doesn't matter. Doesn't matter unless you're talking about a mortgage. We're talking about credit cards here. If someone wants to charge me 1,000% on a credit card, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me because within my spending plan, I have enough to pay off that bill in full at the end of the cycle, which means they can't charge me any interest. So if you have a spending plan, and this is really critical, you have your spending plan, your budget tied to your credit card purchases. So you know how much you're going to spend and you only spend within what your budget, your spending plan says. When you get your bill at the end of the month, boom, perfect. You pay it in full. You can collect all those extra points, which is the right way to do it. I'm not concerned about the interest rate so long as I have a spending plan that allows me to pay it off in full. Okay, so let's look at these no interest, no payment deals you hear about. You know, no interest, no payment for 18 months, buy now, pay later, all these great things. So the last one, I showed you the bad way to use credit, and then I showed you the good way. So I'm going to reverse this one. This time I'll start off with showing you the good way. Here's the right way to use these no interest, no payment plans. So this one is for 18 months. Let's say you go and buy $3,000 worth of furniture at 30% interest. That's pretty standard in these deals, 29.9, and you have to pay it out over 5 years. But for the first 18 months, right? No interest, no payment. So let's look at the right way to do this. That means I'm going to pay it all off in that 18-month interest-free period. So I'm just going to take the $3,000 divided by 18. I'm going to pay 167 bucks a month. That means I'm paying them no interest. And over 18 months, it cost me $3,000, exactly what I wanted to be. This is great because I got to use their product for free for 18 months and I kept my money. Awesome. Only about 20% of the people out there do that, which is why these plans are so popular. Most people go, okay, I'm just going to pay it monthly for 5 years because if I do that, look, then I'm only paying 97 bucks a month because I'm saving 70 bucks a month, right? Isn't that awesome? Look, I'm saving 70 bucks a month. Well, no, you're not, because your first 18 months, the first year and a half, are interest free. That means they're going to charge you interest on the next 3.5 years at 30% interest. That means they're going to charge you almost $3,000 in interest. So when you're finished paying this thing off, it's going to cost you almost twice the original amount. That's why these things are so popular. On different plans, it will cost you up to 3 times the amount of the original one. Depends on the type of plan. You really need to read these carefully. So someone else might say, okay, great, I'm going to do nothing for my interest-free period because it's interest-free. Why should I bother? I'll make payments on the last 18 months, right? So I'm paying $139. I'm paying in between the two. That makes me smarter, right? Well, no, because you're still paying interest over that same 3.5 periods. You're still paying almost $3,000 in interest. It's still going to cost you almost $6,000. The only way to use these plans correctly, whether it's 18 months or 24 months, it's interest-free, is to pay it off in its entirety during that interest-free period. Interest is neither good nor bad. It's all about who you use it. If you don't do it that way, they're going to charge you 2 to 3 times the amount of the original purchase, depending on the type of plan, and it's going to cost you a fortune. But if you use it correctly, if you pay it all during the interest-free period, think about it. This person got $3,000 worth of furniture that they got to use for a year and a half without paying for it. They got to keep that money in their bank account. They got to save month by month. They got to generate interest or dividends or capital gains or whatever they want. They got to use it for free for a year and a half. What a deal. It is an awesome deal. But only 20% of us use this plan correctly. That's why they're so popular, is because the electronic stores, the furniture stores, they make a ton of money on the interest. And if you get behind in the interest, they can start doing repossessions. They can start doing other things. It can get really, really ugly. Understand these plans, and they are awesome. Do not understand them, they can be very, very difficult. Okay, we got a couple more questions. One more question up here. Any resources for compound interest rate calculator tools? Yes. You can go to, it's called FCAC. If you Google that, it should come up. The full name is the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. That is the federal government site that stole our budget tool. They borrowed it, and they do give us credit for it. So it's the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. They have tons of good calculators, or you can just go to My Money Coach. We also have a calculator page. You can pull them off there as well. There's lots of good ones you can pull off of Google. So thanks for that question. All right, so let's look at another spot where people can run into some problems. So I've got on the left here, what is a fairly typical client who comes to us? They've racked up their credit cards. They might have a smaller line of credit that they've used up. So they owe $37,000. And that's about the average person who comes to us for help. They have between $34,000 to $37,000, what's called unsecured credit, which is usually lines of credit and credit cards. So let's pretend you're this person here and you're owing $37,000. You're driving home and you hear an ad on the radio or something pops up on the computer and it says, hey, we got this great deal for you. Come on down, transfer your credit balance for us, low introductory interest. Let's consolidate your debt. Those are potentially 3 deals, but they can be combined into one. So it's not uncommon. So really what they're saying, hey, you owe all this money at $37,000, and we'll say on average, you're paying 20%. We'll just say 20%, make the math easy for me. But you know what? I'm going to give you a consolidation loan for just 3%. Wow. Okay, so that sounds like a pretty good deal. So you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out there and get a consolidation loan. So they're going to loan me $37,000 at 3%. I'm going to take that $37,000 and I'm going to pay off my original credit card debt. So I still owe $37,000. That hasn't changed. Okay. But now instead of paying around 20% interest, I'm paying 3% interest. So ask yourself a question. You don't have to send this one back. Just ask yourself. You're the average person out there. You've been carrying $37,000 of debt around for years. You're just barely making the minimum payments on it. You're just barely getting by. You've been sweating about this. And wow, look at this. It's like magic. You got a consolidation loan and you've paid it off. Your credit cards, there's no debt owed on your credit cards. They're free. You owe nothing on your credit cards. What do you think the average person's going to go out there and do with their credit cards? Be honest. I can hear a few chuckles in the background because they know they're going to go out and party because, hey, look, I owe nothing on my credit card. And they're going to rack them up. And 2 years later, right, they're going to have racked up all their debt again. They won't have paid off their consolidation loan because they were making just the interest only payment. They'll have doubled up their debt and they're going to look like this guy, right? Like, oh my God, what did I do? And then they're going to need to come and see us. We don't want people to come see us, right? Come see us when you're at this stage and we can teach you how to use a consolidation loan correctly. Nothing wrong with credit. It's all about how you use it. We'll coach you on how to get a consolidation loan. Go out and get one. Pay off your credit cards. Then what you do is you take the interest rate differential. And what I mean by that is the amount of interest you're paying when you're paying 20% and the amount of interest you're paying when you're paying 3%. You're saving a whack of money. That whack of money you're saving, you should be spending paying off this debt. So in 2 or 3 years, instead of doubling up your debt, you get to cut it in half. Credit is neither good nor bad. It's all about how you use it. And if you can understand it correctly, it can be your best friend. But very few of us really understand it. Payday loans, it's one of those things out there that I'll admit I love to hate. Payday loans, historically, they were around $1,500. You can now get payday loans $35,000, $50,000. It's ridiculous. They're called a payday loan because they're due on your next payday. Most people get paid on a 14-day cycle biweekly, so you have to pay it back 14 days later. So it's a 14-day period. How do you get a payday loan? Well, okay, quick question. Are you breathing? If you're breathing, put up your hand, right? You just qualified for payday loan because that's really about it. Their system is, do you have some sort of income going into your account? And they don't care if it's disability or anything like that. Some sort of money being deposited automatically into your account. And if you bounce no more than 3 payments in a year. If you can pass that very strenuous test, congratulations, you have qualified for a payday loan. That's really all it takes. So let's look a little more closely. How does a payday loan work? How does all this come together? So line of credit, you might get 2 to 6%. Credit cards, standard 19.9, bank overdraft, 21 to 23. Department store cards, they're usually around 29.9. Payday loans, 17 per 100. Well, that's a little bit different. Well, how does a payday loan advertise? Well, usually it's something like this. Hey, I'm a great guy. Come on down into my store, borrow $100 from me, and I'm only going to charge you $17. Like that first example where we were talking about $60, now it's $17. They hammer that into you over and over. $17, $17, $17. So pretty soon you think, well, this is a sweet deal. It's only going to cost me $17. So that's good marketing trick number one, because of course you have to pay back $117. But your brain just absorbs $17 and you go, hey, that's easy. I can pay $17. And you forget about that $100. Let's go back to this again. Let's take another closer look here. Payday loans, okay. $17 per 100. $17 per 100. Okay, so I got another question for everyone out there. If I'm paying $17 per 100, what's the percentage on that? What's the interest in that? What's 17 out of 100? 17%. I know I've got about 80 people out there now, so I can expect more than one answer. $17. Okay, 17%. Yeah. You know what? I don't want to cut myself short on time, so I'll just stop there and say thank you for your answers, and you're all wrong. You're all completely, totally, utterly wrong. You too, Brent. But don't take it badly. 90% of the people out there would get it wrong, and they want you to get it wrong. They want you to think, hey, what's going on here? Why is everybody dumping on payday loans? Right? Because look at my credit card. My credit card is 20%. My payday loan is only 17%, right? I mean, why is everybody dumping on that? Well, you have to remember that 17% is only over 14 days. What you're thinking of is 17%. The simple rate is over 14 days. That's not how you calculate interest on money. If you got 17 out of 100 on a math test, okay, you should have studied more, but then you get 17%. We're talking money. To get this little symbol here, that stands for APR. Someone mentioned that in a question. That stands for annual percentage rate, which means you have to calculate that over 365 days, not over 14 days. So in order to do that correctly, you have to take that 14-day period and stretch it up to 365 days. When you do that, you get the real interest rate on a payday loan in the province of Manitoba, which is a whopping 442%. Yes, that's legal. At one point in time, the highest rate in the country was $23 per hundred, which was, yeah, Miranda, oh my God. The highest rate was $23 per hundred, which was in BC, and that came to 599.8%. So what the hell? Let's just say 600%, right? Um, Crazy, perfectly legal. How do most people you think pay off payday loans? Well, with another payday loan or another form of credit. The way it works is when they get to the point in time where they give you the check, in one hand they give you the money, in the other hand they give you the contract. In the contract, they do have to disclose the true rate of borrowing at 442%. But at that point in time, it's too late. You run out of options. You've got no other place to go. You go, what the heck? I'll take it. I'll figure out some way to pay it. And that's how you get locked into that cycle of debt. Many check cashing stores actually are payday lenders in disguise, because they'll say once they cash the check, they'll say, "Hey, well, I just took 120 bucks off you, whatever, to cover this off. You know what? Why don't you get a payday loan for a couple $100? It'll cover back the money you just took out. Not only are you going to be fully flushed, you're going to be ahead of the game, and you got 2 weeks to pay me back. That sounds like a great deal. Sure, I'll sign up." And that's how they get you, right? So check cashing stores, I haven't seen one yet that doesn't offer payday loans as well, and it's a great way to hook you. Um, Payday loans is where it's really hard for me to say credit's neither good nor bad. It's all about how you use it. But there is only one way to use a payday loan that is good. You go in, you use it once, you pay it off in 14 days, and you never go back. Unfortunately, that very seldom happens, because if that happened, um, their business model would collapse. And they are, as you can see, as you drive throughout the city, they are very successful. They thrive. Um, so it's hard to say anything good about payday loans, to be honest. All right. So with all that, obviously credit is in our life. It's in our lives in every way, shape, or form. There's not much we can do about it. We need credit. So what is credit? What's a credit score? How does all this come about? So we have two credit bureaus in Canada. One's called Equifax. The other one is called TransUnion. These are private for-profit organizations. They are not government bodies. They are regulated, but they are not strenuously regulated. It's a bit of a Wild West show out there as far as I'm concerned. And really, it comes down to a document called a credit report. And your credit report contains your credit history and your credit score. And sometimes credit report and history are used interchangeably. Your credit history is basically everything you've done on credit, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Your credit score is a mathematical formula that takes your history and mushes it together and pops out a number between 300 and 900. The closer you get to 900, the better. The closer you get to 300, the worse it is. And then there's certain segmentation points within that to denote certain life events that you will be eligible for according to credit, and some you won't be. So for example, this one fluctuates a bit. It used to be you needed a minimum 600 credit score to qualify for a mortgage. That went up to 680 briefly, and I believe they brought it back down to 600. Certain employers have a threshold that you have to cross in order to be eligible even to get an interview. And we'll talk about that later on. So your credit score is about a lot more than just having a number, right? So let's start off with something very basic. Your credit score does not belong to you. It's not your credit score. It belongs to the credit bureaus. So stop calling it my credit score, because it's not my credit score. It's not your credit score. It's the credit bureau's credit score. And don't even call it a credit score. Think of it as a risk assessment tool. RAT, risk assessment tool, because they want to know if you're going to be a rat. Risk assessment tool, RAT. Are you a rat? Are you going to pay your bills or not? That's really what the whole credit score is about. So what type of information do the credit bureaus potentially know about you? Okay, well, potentially, this is what they could know. Your name, your age, your birth date, your social insurance number, your driver's license, your passport, where you work, where you live, your home number, your work number, your cell number, your life insurance, your home insurance, your fire insurance, your auto pack insurance, your water bill, your gas bill, your electric bill, every piece of credit you've applied for and been accepted on, every piece of credit you've applied for and been rejected on, every payment you've made on any of those items I just listed off. Anybody out there got a gym membership? Because, hey, guess what? You got a gym membership. They know about that too. People worry about CRA. Do not worry about CRA. These guys know way more about you than what CRA does. And the scariest thing is not that they know all this. The scariest thing is that it could be all wrong. And this can have some life-changing implications. And we'll get to that as we get a little bit further into the presentation. So how do they get all this information? Well, you give it to them, and it's very nice of you to give it to them because you give it to them for free. Then they take it and they repackage it and they sell it as a credit score. So they love you because you give them all this stuff for free. And you go, wait, hang on a second. I didn't give them authorization to do this. How did they do this? This can't be right. This can't be legal. Well, every time you sign a contractual obligation, a promise to pay, like a gym membership where you promise to pay so much per month, or a life insurance policy where you promise to pay so much, or a cell phone contract, in the fine print, and nobody reads the fine print, you give them permission to run a credit check, a background check. So when they run that credit check, all that information on those forms that they compiled, poof, up it goes to the credit bureaus. And this is how they gather all this information. You've given them permission to do it, and then they repackage it into a credit score. So they say, thank you very much. You're basically making their business model for them. So that's all the stuff that they can know about you. And keep in mind, a lot of that can be wrong. We'll get into that in a bit. Hard hits. Every time you apply for credit, your credit score goes down. I'm sorry, I didn't make up the rules. It's just the way it works. And usually it's not a big deal. It's like a 3 to 5 point hit, just a small hit, and everything being equal in about 3 months, you recover, not a big deal. Unless, and there's almost always an unless when you deal with credit, if you file several pieces of credit within a relatively short period of time, you get bumped up a risk level. Remember, it's not a credit score, it's a risk assessment tool. The second you go up that risk level, bam, down goes your credit score. So I can apply for 3 credit cards, one every 4 months. Hey, that's fine. I go along, my credit score takes a little dip, it comes back, go along, takes a dip, comes back. Not a big deal. But let's say I just got my first credit card and I'm excited about that. Everything's awesome. A week later, I go walking through Canadian Tire and they got this great deal. You can get all this stuff on sale, an extra 10% if you get our credit card. Awesome. I'll fill that one out. Maybe a couple of weeks after that, I go shopping and I'm going through the bay and they got some shirts or some pants or whatever on sale. And I get an extra 15% off. If I get great, I'll fill out another credit card. No problem. I've just now filled out 3 credit cards in about a month and a half. Boom, my credit score goes down. And guess what? Next month, I was planning on trying to get a mortgage. I don't qualify anymore, right? I can't get a mortgage and I don't know why because my credit is good. I pay my bills. I'm on time. I never go over my limit. People don't make those connections. You have to think of your credit score almost like a bank account. When am I going to spend it? I don't want to spend it by filing for 3 credit cards and then going to apply for a mortgage right after because even if my credit score is still high enough to qualify for mortgage, they're going to charge me a much higher interest rate because my credit rating has taken a major drop. So again, it's important to understand how it works and how you time these things out. You can get multiple cards, spread them out. You can get 3 credit cards in a week if you want, as long as you're not planning on, looking for a line of credit, a mortgage, a car loan. Doesn't matter. It'll take time. You'll recover, but you just need to be aware of how the timing of these events can impact you. So every time you apply for credit, your credit score goes down. That's called a hard hit. Everything else to do with credit is called the soft hit. Okay, so let's go back to when I said all this information can be wrong and they can make all these huge mistakes. Well, you have the legal right once a year to go to the credit bureaus and say, tell me everything you know about me. Give me a copy of my credit history. And these are a couple of forms that I provided Lori with, so you can have access to them. One from TransUnion, one from Equifax. That's a soft hit. It has absolutely no impact on your credit score. So that's what a soft hit is. Anything that is not a hard hit is a soft hit. Now let's go back to those forms from Equifax and TransUnion. It's very important that once a year you fill out the forms and you send them off to Equifax and TransUnion. And you need to do it for both because these are independent organizations that are in competition with each other. They do not have identical information. Sometimes one can be completely correct, the other one can be completely wrong. Sometimes they can both be a bit wrong, sometimes they can both be fine. You don't know, and you don't know who your lender is going to. Your lender might be going to the one that has everything right, or your lender might be going to the one that has everything wrong. So once a year for free, you need to check this out. And I provided you with the forms. You can call them. You can go on their website. I do not recommend you do that because again, these are private for-profit organizations. They will try and sell you something. And you don't need to go through that hassle. Just fill out the forms. It takes about 2 weeks and you'll get it back. I got some questions popping up. I'll get to them in half a second. I don't want you to think I'm forgetting them. I'll just finish this slide off first. Public records and consumer statements. That's things like if you've lost a driver's license. You might know to contact your credit card company, you might know to contact the police, but did you know you should also contact the credit bureaus? Because they'll make it very difficult for anyone who finds or who stole that information to steal your identity and take credit out in your name. They'll put a warning on your records. So it's worth it to take that extra step. Trade lines and credit ratings, that's sort of like a step where they start taking all this data and they start to mush it towards that credit score. So I'll be covering that in the next slide, but first I want to get to those questions up on the board. Can you get your credit report? Yes, it's for free. That's what I was talking about, Equifax and TransUnion. Those forms will be made available to you. You can get it once a year for free. It's very important that you go to both of them because it is not identical information, so it's free. From Linda, start a new habit of using my card, getting the rewards, and then transferring the money from my checking to my Visa the same day. Okay, so Linda, if you mean you're using your card and paying it, using your card and paying it, using your card and paying it, stop it. I'll get to that in a few slides. That is actually a very bad thing to do. It's a fairly dangerous thing to do, and it can hurt your credit score. I'll be getting to that probably nearer the end of the credit section, and we'll be going straight to 8:30 on this. If that's not what you're talking about, maybe rephrase the question. Another one here from Susan. I heard that you only use about 20 to 30% of your credit card limit on each card to keep your credit score perfect. Is this always true? That is an excellent question, Susan. Thanks for asking that. And I will be covering that at the end as well. So I don't want to answer that now because I'll be talking about it twice then. I got to keep my time under mine. If I do not answer that question to your satisfaction at the end, please throw it back up and we can get back into it. From Brent, Scotiabank has TransUnion available on demand. Yes, you can use, some financial institutions do it. They may not give you the same level of depth as if you go and pull your records directly from the credit bureaus. Sometimes they do what's like a surface hit and they will only give you so much information. You don't have everything that's available to you. If you take the forms and you go directly to the source, you get everything. So that's very important. So I would do it that way. How hard is it to correct an error? That depends. I'll be getting to that a little bit further on. Very briefly, you want to get on it as quickly as you can. I spotted an error in mine within a week of it being made, and it took 3 months to get fixed. Sometimes it can take years. Depends on the complexity and how old it is, which is again why it's important. Once a year, you check both credit bureaus, so no mistake is more than 12 months old. So it makes it easier to correct, but we'll be talking about that again in a few slides. All right, so the whole credit report, credit rating system, what do they do here? Every payment that you make or fail to make, they rank from 0 to 9. So 0 here at the top of the scale, that means it's brand new credit. They don't know really how it's going to impact you yet, so it has no impact. 1 means making your payment the way you're supposed to do. So if you make your minimum, let's say your minimum monthly payment is $50 and you pay them $50, congratulations, you get a 1. Your minimum monthly payment is $50, you give them $500. Congratulations, you still get a 1. 1 is what makes your score go up. Your minimum monthly payment is $50, you pay it in full and you give them an extra $500. Congratulations, you still only get a 1. 2 through 9 are degrees of bad. They measure your bad much, much more closely. So for example, the 2 means you were late, but you did pay it within 30 days. So everybody gets a 2 every now and then. It's not a big deal, as long as it's every now and then. But your credit score is a lot about patterns. We'll talk about this more later on too. If you always get that bill on Tuesday and you always get paid on Thursday and you're always 2 days late, you're going to build up a pattern, a series of collecting these 2s, and that can have some very significant negative impacts. If you're late making your payments at about 180 days, typically it goes to collections, either internal or external. You'll see here at the bottom, we have collections. That's ranked a 9. That's the same as a bankruptcy. So it gives you an idea of the significance of that impact. That is the single most devastating thing you can do to your credit score. Nothing is ever so bad that you can't recover. Some things take longer to recover than others, and that's about as tough of a hit as you can take. So you don't ever want it to go to collections because it can have a very significant impact. That's you want to talk to your lender. They can be quite reasonable because they don't want to go to collections either because they lose money when they send something to collections. So if you offer them a repayment plan, if you say, hey, cut my interest rates, I can do this, they will work with you. Again, you can call us if you want some help along those lines. Try not to let it go to collections if you're having some problems, because that can be tough to recover. You can recover. It just takes a little bit more time. Really, your credit rating, think of it as like a jet boat, right? It wants to be strong and fast and powerful for you. It wants to do everything you can, but it only takes one fuel, that R1, right? Remember when I was talking about back here, that one? That's the only thing that is going to fuel your jet boat. Everything else on that chart is an anchor, and it's going to slow you down. You build up enough anchors and it's going to sink your boat, and that's no fun for anybody, especially me, because I don't swim. So keep in mind the occasional two that we were talking about here, maybe even the occasional three once in a while. That's getting a little dangerous, but setting up a pattern, that is really, really dangerous. And of course, the further down you go this chart, the more significant the damage that these can do. So who's really interested in your credit report, right? Who wants to know this stuff? Well, lenders, okay, that's the easy one. We'll just park that. We won't go into that because of course a lender wants to know. Um, Landlords? Why would a landlord want to know, right? Well, think about it for a second. Rent is a promise to pay, right? So congratulations or condolences. I've just made all of you landlords. So don't curse me. Um, and let's say you got two tenants, two prospective tenants in front of you, equal in every way, and you just can't decide which one you want. You just can't decide. So you're going to run a credit check. And wait a second, you say they can't do that. Yeah, they can. In the application to rent, this isn't even the lease, just the application to rent, in the fine print, you give them permission to run a background check, which includes a credit check. Okay, so you're the landlord, you run the credit check because you just can't decide. They're equal in so many ways. You get someone who's got a credit score of 750, you got someone who's got a credit score of 450. So here's a question for my audience. Who do you want? Tell me who you want. Do you want 750? Do you want 450? Okay, I see 750. Let's see if I got a few more answers popping up here. I know I scare people. Sometimes they don't want to answer. It's a trick question, he says. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will go with 750. And yes, you're right. Okay, I usually ask people why, but we've got to save some time up here. Why do I want 750? Well, the higher you are, the closer you get to 900, that would tell the landlord that this person is more likely to pay their bills, to stay on top of things. You might really like that person who's got the 450, but my lord, they've got a 450. They're going to have problems paying their bills. That person who's got the 750, right or wrong, you will make the assumption that they can afford their rent and they're more likely to make their payments. Okay, well, that kind of makes sense, right? Okay, so let's look at employers. Employers want to know your credit score? Absolutely. Your credit score is seen in many ways as a measure of trustworthiness and reliability. So, congratulations again. I just made all of you hiring managers, except now you're a hiring manager for your favorite grocery store. So we'll say Sobeys. And you want to hire a cashier. You got two cashiers in front of you, equal in absolutely every single way. You can't decide who you want. So, what are you going to do? You're going to run a background check. You're going to run a credit check. And yes, they can do that because in the application for employment, in the fine print that nobody reads, you give them permission to run a background check. And that's going to include a credit check. So you run the credit check and you got one person's got a score of 750, one's got a score of 450. Okay, so I'll give you the answer. I want the 750. But I got another question for you. Why? Why do I care what the credit score is? I'm hiring a cashier. Why do I care what the credit score is? So that's a legitimate question. I'll wait for your responses. We'll see what we get back. Why do I care? I'm getting some answers. Okay, well, the first person got it right off the hop. Less chance of stealing. Right or wrong, the thought process will be this. That 750, wow, that person, they've got their life together. They're smart, they're sharp, they're focused, they're in charge. Their stress level's manageable. This person is good. I can trust them. The person with the 450, I really like them. I really, really do. But 450, wow, they're going to be under so much stress. They must owe so much money. The collection agents are going to be calling them at work all the time because they can call them at work. They're going to be out of focus. I mean, wow, a 450. How do you get a 450? Wow, they just must owe so much money. I mean, how are they going to pay? Oh my God, they're going to steal from me. Right or wrong, that's the thought process. Okay, so let's throw that out the window. We'll stick with employers. Congratulations, you're hiring managers again. Now you're looking for forklift operator, or maybe someone sitting in an office by themselves, or maybe someone who's supervising 3 or 4 people. You got 2 candidates in front of you, equal in every way. You can't decide which one you want. You run a credit check because you can, because it's in the application form. You get a 750 and a 450. I want the 750, but why? It's a forklift operator. Why do I care what their credit score is? Or it's someone sitting in an office. Why do I care what their credit score is? So again, legitimate question for you guys. Why do I care? Why would an employer care in that circumstance? So you guys are right on the ball, right? Shows more responsibility, likely more dependable. Again, no judgment here, right or wrong. That is the thought process. That person's stress level may be less. That is a key one. Very good, whoever said that one. Right or wrong, the thought process is, hey, that's the person with the 750. I like them. They're smart, they're sharp, they're focused. I'll give them a task. They will get it done. That person with the 450, wow, I really like them. I do. They seem like such a nice person, but wow, a 450. I mean, they must be so stressed out. Again, the collection agencies will be calling them at work all the time. I'm going to give them a task. They're going to mess it up. Hell, they're going to drive the forklift right into the wall. I'm not going to take that chance. They're going to be too distracted. I will go with the 750. Now let's go back several slides. Remember when I said all the information that the credit bureaus have can be wrong? What if you're this person? What if you're the person who's always the second choice to get an apartment and you don't understand why? You're well qualified, you've got the money, you've got a job. Like, why can't you get the apartment? You don't understand why you're second choice. Maybe you're the person who can't get the job and you're always second choice. You're well qualified, you know they like you, and you just don't know why you're not getting the job. Well, you know what? Maybe someone made a mistake. Maybe your credit score isn't 450 and you don't even know what credit score plays into this. Maybe your credit score is 850. You should have gotten that apartment every time. You should have gotten that job every single time. You have no idea that credit scores can play this type of a role in your life. And you have no idea that someone making a mistake can totally have this type of life-changing impact on you. It is so, so important that at least once a year with both credit bureaus, you go and get your credit history. It can seriously, and I'll give you some examples, I think it's the next slide or two, on some seriously life-changing impacts it can have from these mistakes. And I'm going to give you some real life ones that actually occurred. This is stuff you cannot make up. Please check it at least once a year. So why should I really bother doing this? Really, what does it matter to me? Well, let's start off with a recent survey in the US found that 25% of the credit bureau information was wrong. Of that, 20% is critically wrong. What does critically wrong mean? That's easy. No house, no job, no car, no future, right? You can correct that just by pulling it. And you think, that's okay. I'm in Canada. We're so much better, right? Well, no, we use the same credit bureaus as they do in the States. No reason to believe we're any better north of the border than they are south of the border. So let's look at some real life stories, right? These are 3 stories that I've run into in the time I've been with Credit Counseling Society. And look at the top of the list. It happened to me. This was last year. I was checking out my credit to make sure everything was fine, and I found a mistake. The bank had mistakenly failed to make a payment on a mortgage. And the money was there. It was sitting there. Everything was set up. They'd been making payments for years. For some reason, they didn't make the payment. Because they didn't make the payment, they registered it as a missed payment. And that one missed payment caused my credit score to drop 150 points. Just one missed payment. So I called up my bank and I going, what? I was maybe a little more colorful in my language. I said, what's going on here? Right? What happened? They said, we have no idea. We screwed up. Don't worry. We'll get it fixed. So that's the first thing. You go to the source of the mistake and you get them to get it fixed. And it took about 3 months. And I spotted it. It was only 2 weeks old. Still took 3 months to get it fixed. Now, I worked for Investors Group for 10 years. Remember I mentioned earlier on that employers have a minimum threshold. Some of them do, a threshold before they'll interview you. At Investors Group, you have to have a credit score of at least 700 in order for them to talk to you. That mistake would have brought my credit score, or did bring my credit score below 700. If I had applied for a job at Investors Group with that mistake in my file, I would not even have gotten an interview. And just like that, boom, 10 years of work history wiped out. I need, you talking about credit, a fairly good credit score for where I am now. If that mistake had been on my credit report when I filed for my current position, boom, no job, no interview. Another 8 years wiped out. It is real the impact that these mistakes can have. It is so important to check them out. Second one on here, a strong resume. This was a nurse who came to my credit workshop and she took the forms and she filled them out. She came back next month and I was doing a budgeting one, I think the next month. And she said, okay, here's my story. I'm a nurse. I haven't been able to work for a year. I always get my first interview. I never get invited back for the second one. I have no idea what's going on. You know, you talked about all the impacts of credit. Can you go through my credit here and see if there's something in here? So I said, sure, no problem. Went through the first one, zip, no problem. Everything looked great. Went through the second one, and this is why you have to check both. Went through the second one, they only had one thing right. Everything else was wrong. They had cross-referenced her file with another nurse with the same name in the same city. So everything on that file belonged to the other woman. If the other one pulled her history, she'd see everything that belonged to the woman I was talking to. Now imagine you're the hiring manager. You've just talked to this woman. She's nailed the interview. She's awesome. She's a specialized nurse. You don't understand why no one's picked her up. You just, oh, this is awesome. So then you go into the second phase where you start doing her background check. So you pull the one from the credit bureau that had everything right. Good, perfect, everything looks good. You pull the other one because for something like nursing, they're going to pull from both credit bureaus. And you go, what the? Nothing matches. Nothing's, her name's right, but everything else is wrong. Her SIN, her work history, her credit history, everything. Oh my God, I wonder if she's stolen someone's identity. I wonder if she's trying to just get into the hospital, get access to drugs. That might sound a little funky, but that happened in Winnipeg about 3 years ago. And so you're the hiring manager, you're going, oh my, I don't have time to sort this mess out. All right, I'm filing her into garbage. I got a stack of 25 other well-qualified applicants. Next. It's not the hiring manager's responsibility to figure out what's going on here. He or she just goes to the next application in the pile. Once we spotted that problem, we got it fixed. She got a job within a month. Now, it can't say definitively that's what it was, but it's just too much of coincidence that that mistake was on their record. She could not get, who heard of a nurse who can't get a job? She was an experienced nurse. And then within a month of getting that fixed, she got a job. Again, we got to make that connection. That's got to be it. I am going credit free. This is perhaps the scariest story I've got out there for you. This was a 67-year-old lady on her own, fixed income. She was a pensioner. She decided she wanted to go credit free. Nothing wrong with that. So that means she paid off all her credit cards. She canceled them. She moved away. She didn't tell the credit card companies where she had moved to because they don't need to know. She paid off all her cards. 4 years later, she goes to renew her mortgage and she goes to her bank and they say, well, I'm sorry, we can't help you. We can't renew your mortgage. She says, well, what do you mean you can't renew my mortgage? 4 years ago, my credit score was 735. What's the problem? And I said, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you. There's nothing we can do. Your credit score is too low. So, well, what do you mean it's too low? It should be about 735. I haven't done anything to damage it. She says, well, I shouldn't be telling you this, but it's below 600 and no one can give it to you for 600. And she's going, no, 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 that can't be. So she keeps hammering at the person. And he says, actually, you're in the 400s. And I should not be telling you that, but you're in the 400s. She says, oh my God, that's impossible. She goes bank to bank, credit union to credit union, high risk lenders. Nobody will touch her. She's 2 weeks away from being evicted because if she can't get her mortgage renewed, she's going to get kicked out of the house. 2 weeks away from becoming homeless. And she comes to us and sort of, well, what the hell? I've got nothing to lose. Let's see what they can do for me. So we pull her credit history, something she could have done on her own, but we were happy to do for her. And we start going through it. And then we notice something that it was almost funny, but it was so sad. This woman was about to become homeless, 2 weeks away from becoming homeless because of a small mistake with their credit bureaus. It was so small. You would also almost want to laugh. It wasn't for the fact she was about to become homeless because of a 7-cent mistake. She had underpaid one of her credit cards by 7 cents. She'd canceled and moved away, didn't tell the credit card companies where she was going to. So that bill was going to the wrong address. Month after month after month after month, year after year after year, she compiled 48 consecutive missed payments. I missed one, according to the bank. That dropped me 150 points. She missed 48 consecutive missed payments. Nobody would touch her. Once we saw what happened, what went wrong, we went, oh my God, this is such a silly, honestly, stupid ass I can say stupid ass, right? Okay, this is such a stupid ass mistake. Went back to the lender, said, here's the 21 cents we owe you on that 7 cents with interest. Get that taken care of. But her credit score is still in the 400s. No one will touch her. Then we went back to them and said, listen, can you reverse the last 4 years history? Because they can do that. They can say, hey, listen, it was a mistake. We made it. That shouldn't have happened. Of course, it wasn't their mistake. It was the woman's mistake. And they said, yes, absolutely. We can see what happened. It was just a silly mistake. It should never have happened. She's been a great client. We will do that for her. They didn't have to do that. They could have said, no, it is what it is. And she would have been homeless in 2 weeks. Think of the incredible stress this woman was under. 67 years old, fixed income, 2 weeks away from becoming homeless because of a 7 cent mistake. If she had checked her credit histories with both credit bureaus once a year, she would have spotted that mistake when it was no more than 12 months old. She could have fixed it right away. No stress, no anxiety, no issues. Please check your history once a year for free with both of the credit bureaus, not just one. Don't be like my nurse. Check them out with both of them. Your credit score, did I scare you guys on that one? Because I meant to. Your credit score is made up out of 5 pieces. Okay, so a couple of quick questions. Does it matter what time of year you check your credit report? Nope, not at all. You can check it whenever you want. If you pay a credit card by the due date and the bank takes some days to reflect the transaction, how does it affect your credit? That depends on your bank. So you need to check with your bank. If you make your payment, say 3 days before, and it takes them 5 days to process it, if they can look back and see you made your payment before the due date and the delay was on their end, they should reflect that and report it correctly to the credit bureaus. There are some financial institutions that say, nope, sorry, you're out of luck. We processed it late. It is what it is, which isn't right, and you can fight them on that. So it depends on your bank. I would check that with your bank. As a general rule of thumb, I recommend making your payment 3 days before the due date. That allows sufficient time for processing and for anything to go wrong. So great questions. Thanks for that, Christine, and the other person who was anonymous. Those questions are just as important. Okay, so now I'm giving you guys a warning. I am running late. No surprise. I'd say instead of ending at 8:30, I might end about 8:40. So if anyone, any issues with that, you guys over there, everyone over there is saying it's okay. So as long as you guys don't run away on me, probably about 8:40. I'll get onto that. Okay, so question, where can I find the form to request the reports? Um, that information has been given to Lori, and I guess you guys must have an intranet that it's going to be uploaded to or emailed out. It might be getting emailed out. So it is coming to you one way or another. The forms will be coming to you as well as some additional reference material. Okay, so this all seems, oh, so the answer is yes by email and website. So you will be getting it. Okay, so this seems really easy, right? Credit's straightforward. It's not confusing at all, right? So let me get into the really crazy stuff here. Yeah, I'd say we're going to about 8:40. I should be done by then. Okay, oddities of credit. Credit is weird. I think I've said that a few times. It's a lot about patterns. So let's look at a pattern. We have Mrs. Smith who has a $35,000 credit card. So Mrs. Smith has probably done something right with credit to get such a high limit. So, okay, that's a safe analysis you can make. And I'm down there with my little itty bitty $500 credit card. You cannot assume anything about my credit worthiness because I have a low limit. I may be a gambler. I may be an addict. I may be a shopaholic. I may not trust myself with a high limit. So maybe I've intentionally kept my limit low. So a low limit can mean nothing about credit worthiness. Okay, so this is all about patterns. Let's look at a pattern. So we've got Mrs. Smith here. Mrs. Smith spends $30,000. So this is going to be her pattern. She spends this every month. Wednesday is her cutoff date. Thursday, her bill arrives, and Friday, she makes her payment. So this is her pattern month after month after month after month, year after year after year. She spends $30,000 out of $35,000, but she always pays her bill on full, on time. She's never late. She never skips a payment. She never abuses her card in any way. She is absolutely perfect. So I'm down there with my little itty bitty $500 credit card, and I have a nasty little addiction of my own. I like my Snickers bar. And being cheap, I go out to a discount store and I go out and once a month I buy myself a Snickers bar for $1.10. I have a similar pattern. Wednesday is my cutoff date. Thursday I get my statement. and Friday I go out and get and pay my bill. And this is my pattern month after month. So Mrs. Smith, month after month, year after year, spends 30 out of $35,000, pays it on time every time, never late, never skips a payment. She's absolutely perfect. I spend $1.10 every month. I pay it on time every time, never late, never skip a payment. So my question for you guys, and yes, I want answers on this one, is what happens to our credit scores? So let's talk about Mrs. Smith. What do you think is going to happen to Mrs. Smith's credit score? Ooh, the silence is deafening on this one. Okay, so I've got to go down. Go down or stay the same. Okay, come on, Maria, get off the fence. One or the other. The question was, is the cutoff date the statement date? Yes. So I've got an up. Both will go down. Boy, I'm getting some interesting answers here. And I think I've got a few people I've scared who don't want to answer. So let's deal with Mrs. Smith first. Okay, so Mrs. Smith's credit score is going to go down. I'm surprised and impressed by the people up there who got that right. Um, Not only is it going to go down, oh, sure, now everybody's saying it's going to go down. I gave you the answer. Not only is it going to go down, it is going to crash and burn. And you might be going, well, that doesn't make any sense. She's using credit. She's paying it off on time. She's never late. She's not abusing it. She's being perfect in absolutely every single way. How can her credit score be going down? Well, that's because of something called the utilization rate, also known as the 60% rule. Remember, your credit score is a risk assessment tool. If you start using more than 60% of your available credit, you go up a risk level. And the second you go up that risk level, bam, down goes your credit score, and they do not care about the fact that you're making your payments. Your credit score is going to take a very significant drop. Anywhere between 30 to 60% is a lag on your credit score. 60% and above is a significant drop. They actually want your utilization rate to be 30% or less. Now, this is a basic formula. The denominator, the bottom number, is total available credit. So that's all your credit cards and your line of credit. That's your available amount. On top of that, the numerator is how much credit you're actually using. That's your utilization rate. So she's using 30 out of $35,000. That's 84%, well over that 60% threshold. So bam, down goes her credit score. I saw a few people chatting in there that, yep, my credit score is going to go up. Absolutely right. For people who are asking questions as opposed to comments, please make sure you use the Q&A because they pop up on my screen for half a second and they're gone. I'll never see your question that way. So please remember to use the Q&A on that. And my credit score, it's going to go up. Not only is it going to go up while she's crashing and burning, I'm going to go shooting like a rocket right past her. The thing to get from this slide is that every single time my $1.10 is beating her $30,000 and $35,000. You don't need a huge limit to build credit. You don't need to spend a whack of money to build credit. People who are struggling, people who are new to the country and don't have a credit score yet, I honestly tell them go get a $500 credit card, buy a pack of gum once a month. That's it. That's it. I will, everything being equal, my credit score will go shooting past Mrs. Smith every single time. You don't need to spend a whack of cash. Okay, so let's look at another one here. We're going to stick with patterns because it's really all about patterns. We're going to stick with Mrs. Smith and myself because we know each other so well. We're going to stick with that same Monday to Friday thing, but Mrs. Smith has learned about the utilization rate, so now she's only going to spend $5,000. Okay, so she's got a new pattern, $5,000. That's cool. We're going to keep Wednesday as the cutoff date. So on third, oh wait, what's happened here? She's paid her credit card bill in advance. Okay, so this is different. What does this mean? Well, we see this as two patterns. And it happens a lot with millennials and younger, not so much, with the boomers, me guys, And what happens is they'll go out and they'll spend some money and they'll come home and they pay off their credit card right away. They'll go out, they'll use their credit card, they come home, they pay their credit card, they go online and pay it right away. They go out and they spend some money and they come back and they pay it online right away. I think that's one of the comments that someone has made earlier on. That's one pattern. Another pattern that we see when people do this is, hey, I know Wednesday's my cutoff date. I'm going to go online Tuesday night. I can see I owe $5,000, so I'm just going to do a quick transfer, and I paid off my bill in advance. What happens then is that when your statement arrives, it shows you owe nothing because you've already paid your bill. Because you've already paid your bill, you owe nothing. So that means on Friday, you pay nothing because you owe nothing. Makes perfect sense, right? And you haven't done anything wrong here, really, right? Nothing wrong here. So I'm down there and I still got my nasty habit. And for those of you who remember, yes, it is a Snickers bar. I go once a month, I buy my Snickers bar. Wednesday is still my cutoff date. I do not pay it in advance. So when I get my bill on Thursday, it shows I owe $1.10. And on Friday, I go out and pay my bill. I'm going to have the same question for you guys, so get your fingers ready. What is going to happen to our credit scores? So let's talk to Mrs. Smith first. What do you think will happen to Mrs. Smith's credit score? Okay, so I've got no change, stay the same, unchanged. Okay, so to try and stay on time, I'll go with those answers. I'm impressed. Has anybody been reading ahead? Because her credit score is going to stay the same, but to be more precise, it's going to flatline. And there's a bit of a distinction here. And I'll give you an example as to why this is important and why this can be potentially dangerous. So I do this session for commerce students. And so before I get to the line where I show the yellow line, hang on a second. I got ahead of myself. Before I show the yellow line there, I usually ask the class, how many people out there are Mrs. Smith? How many of you prepay your credit card bills? And half the hands go up. And I say, okay, well, why do you do this? Well, when we graduate, we might want to start a business. We want a good credit score so we can get some good loans, or, maybe, in 8 years or whenever, when we graduate, we want to get a first mortgage. And I said, well, great. You've got the right idea, but you're doing it all wrong because again, they're going to flatline your credit score. So imagine you're this 18-year-old, you just got your credit card and you are prepaying your bills the way Mrs. Smith does here. 7 years later, you're 25 and you're going to go in for a business loan. And the person sitting on the other side of the desk goes, oh my Lord, what has this person done? They've got the credit score of an 18-year-old because for 7 years you've been prepaying your credit card bill and you have flatlined your credit score. It has not budged. So you're not going to get that business loan. You're not going to get that mortgage because you flatlined your credit score. So this, while it seems on the surface like a good idea, it can be really, really dangerous. Now, almost to flip that around a bit, this is a very common money management strategy, and it's actually can be a very good money management strategy. If I've got a bill coming down the road for $5,000, I've got $5,000 in my pocket right now, and I know that bill's 3 weeks down the road, but I don't trust myself that I'm going to have that money when the bill shows up in 3 weeks, so I want to pay it now. Excellent, perfectly good money management strategy, but you're going to flatline your credit score. So credit's weird, right? How about this one? If instead Mrs. Smith did not pay that $5,000, but she paid, get ready, $4,999.99 and left a balance owing of 1 penny, she would now have a history of owing money and paying off that bill because that's what they're looking for, right? The reason why when you prepay your credit card, it flatlines your credit score is they see that you've used credit, but you have no history, according to them, of owing money. Therefore no history of paying back the money you don't owe. So let's say Christine out there just asked to borrow $5,000 from me. And I say, great, Christine, let me take a look at your payment history. And I pull up zeros. She has no payment history because according to the credit bureaus, she's never owed any money. They don't go further back. They stop here. They look at your statement. They don't go further back. So this is why it can be really, really dangerous. But at the same time, it can be a good idea. If you want to prepay your bill, nothing wrong with that. Always leave a dollar or two owing. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying get a bill and don't pay it. Okay. I'm saying do not prepay your bill. You want to get a bill that shows some money owing, a dollar or two, and then pay it. You'll have your due date, which is 14 to 21 days from the statement date, depending upon your credit card, when that's the due date. You want to pay it about 3 days before that to give them time to process. Okay. So don't get that confused. I'm not saying don't pay the bills. right? Because some people say, oh, does that mean I'm not supposed to pay my bill? No, don't pay it in advance of the cutoff date. If you want to prepay it a little bit, that's fine, but do not pay it in its entirety. If I have confused anyone on that one, because people can sometimes get confused on that, say, I'm confused. Otherwise, I'm going to go into my next slide. But if I get any I confused pop up, I will come back to this because this can be an easy one to get confused on. And yes, again, my $1.10 is now going to beat her $5,000. It'll beat them every time. So just keep that in mind. So to build credit, the credit bureaus need to see a history of you using it, a history of owing money, which means some sort of balance has to hit that statement, and then paying it back within the time period that is specified. So you do not want to zero balance it unless, of course, you don't use it for the month. Okay, I'm just going to gloss over this part too because this is just our survey again. So hopefully everybody remembers it's very, very important to complete the survey. In this case, the title is Truth About Credit. And yes, we need 2 surveys from you because we had 2 topics. So please, it's very important to me personally. It's important to us as an organization. Please fill out those surveys. And don't worry, I'll be getting to your questions as well. Well, one's just popped up right now. What about transfer funds to a credit card versus maybe a payment? Transfer funds to a credit card. Oh, so you mean like you're in your bank account and you're doing online transfer, say from your savings account to your credit card? If that's what you're referring to, that's still a payment, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But again, make sure that when your statement arrives, it does show a balance owing. If you're prepaying it, you do not want to pay it in advance in its entirety. Okay, so some questions here that I'm going to answer myself, but I'll give you a second or two to think about it. These items don't build credit. Why not? A Visa debit card. Well, why would a Visa debit card? Why wouldn't that build credit? It says right on it, a Visa card. How could a Visa card not build credit? Okay, let's go back to the beginning of this session. I said credit's a drug. It's a very particular type of drug. It's opium, which stands for other people's money, right? If you're using a Visa debit card, Visa is just a trademark. It's a debit card, so you're using your own money. Okay, prepaid credit cards. Okay, it says right on it, credit card. How can that not build my credit? Well, it's the same thing. Okay, prepaid means it's your money on there. If you're spending your own money, you're not using opium, not using other people's money. Secured credit cards. Again, a reminder, if you guys have questions, please use the Q&A. I'm seeing a couple of chat things pop up, which look like they were good questions, but they come and go so quickly, I don't see them. A secured credit card is a really good credit card. And what course do you select in the survey? Sorry, Truth About Credit. That's the title of this one. Okay, so a secured credit card is a different type of creature. Most of us, you fill out an application form, you get a credit card, you're approved, $2,000, and you go on your way. A secured credit card is really good for someone who's having some credit challenges and they're having problems building up and establishing credit, or if you're new to the country, because you have no credit when you come into a country as a new immigrant. So the way a secure credit card works is you go to a financial institution that offers them, and maybe you give them $250, and they take that $250 and they hold it in a trust account. It's still your money, but they're holding it in a trust account for you. And then they give you a credit card that's a multiple. So you give them $250, they give you $500 as a credit card. And it's like a regular credit card. You use it, you pay it off, you use it, you pay it off. And they watch you over the course of the year. And in that year, they basically decide whether or not do they trust you. And if you're using it responsibly, you're not going over your limits, you're making your payments, anywhere within that year, they go, okay, great, hang on a second. You understand how this works. Here's your $250 back. They cancel the secured credit card. And now they give you a regular credit card, maybe for, $1,500 to start you off on. And that's the best way to go. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the person abuses the card, goes over the limit, doesn't make payments, skips things. It just doesn't work out. So anywhere within that year, they can go, whoa, 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 hang on a second. This is not going the way it should. Maybe you owe $200 on the card. They'll take that $250 you gave them in trust. They'll use $200 of it to pay off the debt, give you the $50 back, and politely tell you to go away. That's not a good place to be in because a secured credit card is one of your last best efforts to get credit if you're having some challenges. But talk to your bank or credit union and they can talk to you about secured credit cards. Not all of them offer them. Cell phones may or may not build your credit, same as utilities. Some some cell phone companies, some utility companies only report you to the bureaus if you miss a payment. They don't necessarily report you when you make a payment. So you have to check with your utility and your cell phone provider to see if they do both ways, because some of them only report missed payments. If you have a burner phone, a 7-Eleven phone, a pay-as-you-go phone, there's no contractual obligation to make a payment. So no reporting to the credit bureaus because you're paying for it in advance when you buy your minutes. So that doesn't do any good for you. And a payday loan, even if you make your payments on time, lenders hate to see a payday loan in your history. It will automatically work as a strike against you. So it will not build that up for you. So, okay, we're getting into our wrap up time here now. So really you can improve your credit, but it does take time. Make your payments on time. If you can, pay it off in full at the end of every month because that's going to increase your utilization rate. Remember that 60% rule if you pay it off in full. Look at a secured credit card if you're having some challenges. One thing to take away from my Mrs. Smith slides is my $1.10 beat her out every single time. You don't need a whack of credit. You don't need a whack of credit cards. You don't need to spend a lot. Okay. Cell phone contracts can build credit. Make sure though that they're reporting the payments as well as the missed payments. Really, what I've been saying, credit is neither good nor bad. It's all about how you use it that makes it either a tool or a trap. I'm wrapping up now, so I'm hoping everyone's going to be like Harvey. Hopefully you remember Harvey here. He's my credit aware consumer. So you can realize, that credit can be really, really good for you if you understand how it works. And if you don't, it can be a bit of a trap and you don't want to get into that place. Hopefully I've been able to give you a bit of knowledge in terms of how all of this works. If you guys have gotten any value out of either of these sessions, the best way to say thank you is to fill out the surveys. If the people in the back want me to stay on for a few more minutes, because I don't want to keep them late because they have families to go to as well, I can always answer a couple of questions. You guys good for another 10 minutes, we'll say? Any questions come up? So I've got some head nods, so I can leave the last 10 minutes for questions. Thank you very much for everyone who's saying thank you in the chat. Do remember that best way to say thank you is to fill out that survey. But I can hang around for a few minutes if anyone has any questions. If you're not comfortable asking some questions, because this is one of our great taboo topics, again, my email address will go out with the slide deck and the other reference material. Can you talk about credit card balance transfers with good interest rates for a limited time? Okay, so these are deals that you'll see, for low introductory offer, for 6 months, 9 months, sometimes 12 months, 0% interest, low interest, transfer your balance over. Well, the thing that they don't mention in the commercials is they charge you a fee to transfer the balance over. Anywhere from 1%, 2% of the balance that is being transferred over. So they'll charge you a fee on that. So even with that fee, it can be a good deal, but I would suggest if you do something like that, you need to create an aggressive plan to pay off that card in its entirety by the time the end of that special offer period fades. You don't want to be jumping from card to card to card, racking up these 2% fees every time you do it because one offer is expired and you want to go to the next one. You want to really create a plan so that you can pay it off in its entirety during that special low interest period.
I guess that's all for questions. So just a reminder, everyone, that we'll be posting all Tim's presentation and the relevant documents to our website. And those who have provided the email, we'll be sending these links out to you or the documents to you. And I'm sure if you're having trouble finding, you can reach out to our resource center. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time tonight. I know I learned a lot and got some homework to do, and I think some of you probably feel the same way. And I want to thank Tim for taking the time. I think it's been really informative. Um, if you have further questions or looking for more information, you can go to the Credit Counseling Society to their website at nomordebts.org, where you can be reached by phone at 204 942 8789 or 1 948 8960. Thank you all for joining us tonight and hope you found this session informational, and hopefully we can maybe do this again. It sounds like most people enjoyed it, and thank you, Tim. I think
You're very welcome. Thanks
really
for having me out. Love to do it again.